Welcome. The Eastham Conservation Commission will hold a public on-site meeting. Oh, sorry. I've got the wrong agenda. The Eastham Conservation Commission will hold a hybrid public meeting on Tuesday, May 26th at 6 p.m. pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, MGL Chapter 30A, Sections 18 to 25, Open Meeting Law, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 155 of the Code of the Town of Eastham. This meeting is being broadcast on Public Access Channel 8 and streamed on YouTube. It will be rebroadcast on Channel 8, and meeting videos are available on YouTube. Before we begin, a quick reminder. While our meetings are relatively informal, the Commission uses a simplified version of Robert's Rules. The chair runs the meeting, and everyone should speak through the chair after being recognized. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. We allow discussion between commissioners, staff, and applicants, and may extend that to abutters. For NOIs and RDAs, the applicant will present first, followed by discussion with the commission and staff. Once commission questions have slowed, abutters will have a chance to speak, followed by other members of the public as time allows. The chair may set time limits if needed. Please keep your microphone muted unless it is your turn to speak, and let the chair know if you plan to record the meeting. Most importantly, please be respectful to others so we can keep the meeting productive and focused. I'm going to take attendance and then we can begin. Janet Benjamin.
Here.
Joanne Cossett.
Here.
Greg Douglas.
Here.
Mike Rivers.
Here.
Cinnamon Swabble.
Here.
Chuck Wagner, he said he might be late. And Karen Strauss, I am here. First up tonight, we have our usual public comment period. This is an opportunity for anyone to briefly address the commission on matters not on the agenda tonight. If anyone wishes to speak, please make themselves known. Okay, and seeing no one, our first item tonight is a request for determination of applicability filed by Andrew Minardi. Applicant proposes to remove existing paver stones, install a wooden boardwalk and decking in existing outdoor shower at property located at 47 Longstreet Lane, map 10, parcel 342A. And someone here to speak on this? Here he comes now. We'll wait till he joins us. Mr. Warren, are you on the meeting? Donald Warren? Don Warren? Don Warren, we just called your agenda item. Would you make yourself known? Okay, if you might like to speak on the project and give us a quick overview.
Karen, the participant list shows as a Priscilla Minardi.
Okay, but Don
She's
Warren
not
is
speaking up.
well, we have Don Warren on. He can't seem to get the mic to work.
Correct. I see that same chat message. I can't seem to get the mic to work.
Maybe if we mute and he tries. Any suggestions, Wayne?
No, I would suggest perhaps postponing this particular case for a little bit to see if he can get his microphone going, or attempt a different way, maybe by phone, if
Or maybe log out and log back in, and we'll
Yeah,
pick it
I
up
would try that
a little
also.
bit later in the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we'll come back to that. Next up, we have an after the fact request for determination of applicability filed by Kathleen and John Healy. Applicant proposes to upgrade failed septic system at property located at 55 Heritage Hill Circle, map 14, parcel 032. And somebody here to speak on that.
Hi, good evening. Darren Meyer here, Meyer and Sons. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yes.
I'm here to just present the plan and go over the details and answer any questions regarding this filing. So basically, it was a failed septic system as part of a real estate transaction. The proposed septic system is a tank pump chamber to a leaching field of stone and pipe. The property is subject to storm flowage with an AE 13 flood zone. The system itself is within the buffer zone to that flood zone, about 25 feet away. I think it ended up 22 feet away from the flood zone elevation. As part of the work was mostly grass, a couple of very small caliper scrub oaks, about 3 to 4 inches in diameter, maybe 10 feet tall, were taken down. That location was selected because of the private wells in the area and also a much more dense vegetation further up into the corner of the property. We ended up with meeting all Title V requirements with this installation, and that sums it up. I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, okay, I'm going to start by asking, how did it come to be an after the fact filing?
Became an after the fact filing because initially the work was to be done outside the flood zone. In a lot of towns that I work in, that work isn't subject to wetlands jurisdiction. But with that being said, back in September, I did send a copy of this plan to the conservation office in an email. Got a reply from Amy, forwarding the plan to Alex, asking for his input. We didn't get any reply. After following up a week later, I didn't get a reply, so I just moved forward with the plan. Gave it to the realtor back in September. I guess they got it permitted early this year and put it in March.
Okay. I'm going to ask, we were out at for site visits this morning. Cinnamon can just go over what we saw, what she'd like to report on what we saw out there. Cinnamon?
Yep, we did go out. Everything looked as he said. It was a grassy area. The seating's taking well. Everything he said was, what I could see. So what we saw out there. I didn't see anything to be concerned about.
Okay, I'm going to ask if anybody on the commission has any questions or concerns. Alex?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, would have appreciated some additional follow-up. Not getting a reply from the Conservation Department is not an approval to do the work.
It won't happen again. I'm aware of the requirements.
Okay. Janet?
He mentioned some trees were taken down.
It was 2 very small caliper scrub oaks, about 3 or 4 inches in diameter, maybe 10 feet high. The majority of the area was just grass, kind of a weeded natural grass, but there were a couple of small diameter scrub, not pines, oaks, sorry, that came down. So they were in the footprint of where we proposed to lay it out.
So then my question is to the people who were on the commission who were out there this morning, are you recommending any mitigation for the trees and shrubs that were cut down.
Does somebody want to take that? I don't see a need. Mike? Cinnamon? Greg, any thoughts?
No, I don't see a need either.
No, that the area surrounding is well forested. The patch where it's been reseeded is growing in nicely, but I don't see a need for any mitigation.
There was a nice spruce too that was kind of set back there, which is doing very well.
Thank you,
Right.
both of you.
All right, any other questions, comments? Okay, if we might have a motion on this. We're looking for a positive 2B, negative 3, and as it's already been installed, I don't think we need the special conditions for septic upgrades we usually attach to this.
So moved.
To accept the submission with a positive 2B and a negative 3, with compliance to Alex's request to update him.
I think that was okay. All right. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Joanne,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay. I would just want to check if Don Warren managed to connect and would like to go ahead. Looks like maybe not, so we'll just move on and come back to that later. Next up on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability filed by Patricia Thomas Trust. Applicant proposes to install a new septic tank at property located at 1205 Herringbrook Road, map 13, parcel 078D. And who's here to speak on this?
I'm here, Jason.
Jason, okay. If you would like to go give us an overview, please.
Sure. For the record, Jason Ellis representing Patricia Thomas and Judith Spang. So they currently have a property on Herringbrook Road that is right adjacent to the Herringbrook that runs out of Wiley Park and Bridge Pond. The property is located to the south of that property. It's a large property that has a small house envelope. The rest of the property is in conservation restriction. There's several acres there. The property currently has a 3-bedroom house and then a 1-bedroom. There's 1 bedroom in the garage that's used as a living quarters in the summer. It currently has a failed Title V system that has a 1,000-gallon septic tank and a leach field. The leach field is located within the 50-foot buffer from the land subject to coastal storm flowage, and it's also located within the 100-foot buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland that's across the street on Herringbrook Road. So we're going to be abandoning that leach area that's failed, and also abandoning the septic tank that exists. We're going to be installing a new 1,500-gallon 2-compartment septic tank with an Orenco Advantex nitrogen reducing system and a pump vault that would be on the north side of the house. All the plumbing comes out in that location, and it's also easy to access for maintenance and pumping right there. There's kind of a corridor that comes in off that driveway that'll be easy to install the tank without losing any trees or any vegetation. And then the leach field, the new leach area, is going to be located in the southwest corner of the property, which is outside the 200-foot riverfront zone, outside of all the other 100-foot buffer zones. So it's the farthest location that we can get away from everything. So this is, in general, this is a huge improvement with all the wetland resources that we have. Very minimal disturbance. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. So a bunch of us were out there at the site this morning and looking at the site plans. I did have a question why you placed this within the 0 to 100 foot of the riverfront. The riverfront area performance standards do suggest that the work be done outside of the 0 to 100, and that 10.583 also requires an alternatives analysis for other locations. And it seemed like there was plenty of room in other locations outside of the 0 to 100 to put these elements of the septic system.
Yeah, there are other locations we can put the leach area, but what it means is it means removing a lot of vegetation in the buffer zones. So you still, if we move it to the south towards where the old existing septic tank is, we're still going to be within the 100-foot to the buffer zone to the land subject to coastal storm flowage, and it would mean that we'd have to remove quite a bit of vegetation, a lot of trees in that area. We placed it in the location that we had it, just simply because it would be the least amount of disturbance, the least amount of vegetation that we need to get. It's already in kind of a disturbed area there.
Well, it seems like there's a whole lot of area that's not within the 100-foot buffer zones, and that is outside the 100-foot riverfront area.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's just if we put it in those other areas, we'd have to put the tanks super deep to get the pitch coming out, because all the plumbing comes out on the other side of the house.
Mhm.
So we're trying to pick up all that plumbing that comes out on the east side of the house. If we get it all outside the buffer zones, we're going to be way over on the west side of the house, and by the time we run all that plumbing across to the other side, we're going to be 5 or 6 feet deep, and that tank's going to be not in compliant with Title V and it being within 3 feet of the grade and whatnot. So where we have it, it complies with all the regulatory requirements of Title V, where it wouldn't if we put it in the other locations outside the buffer zone. And the tank is a sealed vault, so once it gets installed, it's a monolithic tank, a monolithic pour, which means there's no seam around the middle. So and it's also sealed, waterproofed. So it's once it's installed, there's very little disturbance and very the almost no chance of that it's going to leak. So
okay, it would be helpful if you include that kind of alternatives discussion with the filings in the future.
Okay.
And then we were out there and we looked at the area where you proposed to put the pump vault and the tank, and there seems to be a little question about where the trees are there in relation to the limit of work and whether any are coming out.
Yeah, all that work can be done without any trees coming out. I think there was one dead cedar that's right there, right on the edge of the work limit. That would come out, but nothing else would need to come out at that point. So.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to ask if anybody else on the commission has any questions or concerned, and I am going to note for the record that Jeff Wagner has joined us. Joanne?
Yes, thank you. Could you just clarify, please, when you said if you were to move where the new septic goes, it would not be Title V compliant? Can you explain what part of it wouldn't be compliant if you had to do that?
Sure. There's a requirement that the septic tank has to be, there can't be any more than 3 feet of cover over the top of the tank. So if I were to put the tank outside all the buffer zones, we'd have about a 50 to 75 foot run for the solids line, which is the line that usually has a 1/4 inch pitch on it. And by the time you get that distance, you're dropping another 1.5 to 2 feet over that run with the pitch. So it puts the tank about 5 feet below grade, which would be variances. So it would kind of get batted back and forth between you folks and the Board of Health. The Board of Health would say, put it where you had it, because it complies with our regulations and the Title V regulations, rather than, their setback to the wetland area is only 25 feet per a septic tank. So, it's all done to be in maximum feasible compliance with Title V. So.
And is the, not to get too far into engineering questions here, is the 3 feet for accessibility, or why is it 3 feet, and why shouldn't you go deeper?
I don't know why they have that requirement on the tank. The reason why they have the requirement on the leach area is just so that it gets, aeration. The leach area portion is through aerobic treatment, so they want to have it close to the surface. They don't want it deep, so that it still gets aeration into there, so that it gets the maximum amount of treatment out of the leach area. And I think the tank requirement is more or less to facilitate why, that having the leach area also be 3 feet above, within grade. So,
Great. I appreciate the little bit of education there. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. If we could then have a motion for a determination of positive 2A and a negative 3, with a note that the one dead cedar can be removed, but no other vegetation will be removed, and with the special conditions for septic system upgrades.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Janet,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
I don't know if Chuck came in early enough to hear the whole thing.
Not the whole thing, but I think I heard enough to understand what's going on, so I'm for it.
Okay, and I'm a yes as well.
Thank you very
you.
much.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, next up we have, and after the fact, request for determination of applicability filed by Seaview Cottages. Applicant proposes to plant 10 pitch pine trees as mitigation for the removal of 5 trees at property located at 25 Seaview Road and 1080 State Highway, map 18, parcel 029 and 033. Someone here to speak on this?
Glenn Krawowski.
You're the phone number. Okay, if you could just
Yes.
maybe quickly run us through this.
Thank you very much. Glenn Krawowski from EBT Environmental Inc. Yes, this is after the fact. The client and their landscape people had cut and shipped pitch pine. Some of them were on Rusty Keith's property. As we've had a couple of meetings with you on this, were required under the enforcement order to remove the wood chips, the logs. We did go and take care of the wood product, the human-made wood product, and some concrete, other material from the previous owners in the back on Mr. Keith's property. And EBT Inc. and the surveyor were unaware of the additional trees under the larger pile of chip. We once it was removed, because we were there initially and showed the landscaper how to remove down to the A horizon, and that's what I directed him. I was there long enough. He removed. Okay, that's what you should do, and then get the other product that was in the back off the Mr. Keith's property again. And then once we did leave to go back to Oxford, he completed the large pitch chip pile. What we end up finding out through Mr. Keith as he walked on his property, that there were additional stumps nearly level with the ground underneath the larger chip pile. And that's how we came up with 3 or 4 additional trees, actually 3 under the chip pile. So in the end, we had 5. 1 that we knew on Mr. Keith's property, 1 on Mr. Sanborn's property, and then these are 3 additional pitch pine under the chip. So that's how we ended up with 5, and then we proposed 10 as you require, and we showed the new pitch pines where the chip pile was, because that's where those 3 pitch pines were. We sent you a plan showing all locations of the 10 pitch pine, and we did get we once had an email from Mr. Keith that we put in their original RDA. It was dated on April 26th, and then there was a requirement to have him sign an additional document, which we did have him do, and we sent it over. We asked him to, I should say. We didn't have him do it because it's we're beholden to him, and we appreciate that he sent us that he wasn't concerned where they went. The logic would be put them where the other pitch on his property were removed. And so that's what we followed up with. And we're here and ready to plant those pitch pines. Thank you.
Thank you. We were out there
Thank
for
you.
a site visit, and I'm going to ask Mike if he would like to give us an overview of what he observed out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was first at the site a few months ago, and as everyone knows, there was a large chip pile right next to an area of wetland. We were pleasantly faced with a very clean area. They did a very nice job of cleaning things up, including the detritus that was around the corner that I guess was on the adjacent land to the owner.
Yes.
We felt like everything was done as we had asked, and thank you very much for doing that.
Our pleasure.
I have one question. Why did you choose pitch pines for remediation?
That's what we lost. And so we went back with what's your common tree, obviously out there. In fact, I just left the site. Let me please say that I just came across one that was 20 inches in diameter, largest pitch pine I've seen out this way on the site. But beyond that, we just went back with what you had. We might say that thank you to Alex for giving us the list of native plants that you want to see out there, and we did find that pitch pine wasn't in that list, and I believe Alex probably is revising the plan as that would be one of your most common trees out there. If there was another reason to put something else, such as your Acer rubrum, I'm just looking at that. You did have American Beech. There was those couple, the red cedar, black gum could have gone in there. And if there's a change, we'll switch it up with the three that I just mentioned, because they're all, the black gum being FAC and the red maple FAC, but FAC we can grow as well in the upland as in the wetland, as you know, on the rating. And the beech is a little FAC up, so that would take also in that area because it's an upland area. So if there was a diversity that the commission wanted, it'd be our pleasure to mix that up instead of 10 pitch pine. Thank you.
I'm going
Hello?
to say, thank you. Alex, your
Thank
hands up.
My hand's up regarding a separate matter. Did you want to discuss the types of trees going in? I'm okay with it staying as 10 pitch pines.
Oh, I'm okay with pitch pines. Does anybody have any objection to the pitch pine? Okay, it seems like not. Is there any other questions or concerns here?
I did want to mention, we still had the stop work order in place out there. Do we want to rescind that at this point in the meeting or wait until later?
Well, I think we could probably wait until after we vote, and then we could do that here. It is on the agenda later. No, it's just on the agenda here. We could certainly do that at this point, but let's vote on the RDA first. And there's no additional questions. I just want to say that I probably speak for everybody else when I say that we appreciate how quickly this was addressed after it was pointed out and after all our discussions, and we do appreciate that. Okay, would somebody like to?
We wanted to say thank you for that comment, and I did recall that years ago for the town, this is during cell tower time, I was in one of your gravel pits and flagged, not that it's a side note, I flagged for one of your cell towers in some town gravel pit. I had left that out when I first started my discussions with you, so I had been in Easton before. Thank you.
Okay, it's a nice town to come visit.
It is. Thank you.
Okay, so would somebody like to take a hand at the motion, or would you like me to suggest language? Mike, maybe?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the determination with a positive 2B and a -3.
Okay, and we should probably add some special conditions, perhaps 24 hours work notice, some temporary irrigation, and some site inspections.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, I heard a second. All right. Chuck,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
and I am a yes. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Commission. Pleasure being in front of you. Thank you again.
All right, next we have a continuation of request for determination of applicability filed by Christine and Jennifer Ann Emond. Applicant proposes to construct a one-car garage with a living suite above the garage at property located at 380 Mill Road. And I do know that the applicants are at Town Hall. And I believe is there someone here to speak on the project? Would it be the homeowners or John Falacci maybe?
Yes, John Falacci for the record, with Cape Associates. On the behalf of the owners, Christine and Jennifer Amen. The project is located at 380 Mill Road, and the project is for a single-car garage with a ADU above it, pretty much located off to the side of the house. And it's about 672 square feet in size. And it's primarily dictated at that location because of the setbacks, both zoning and the health department for the septic system. And I believe the commission has been on site. And Tim Santos with Merrill Engineering and Land Surveyors may be on the call list. I'm
here.
Okay, terrific. So Tim's here for any technical questions. And do you want to add anything, Tim?
Just to let you know that the existing, I'll just call it an addition for lack of better terms, existing additions currently in existing developed areas, lawn and driveway, all the roof runoff will be diverted to dry wells. We have been hired, we have an existing conditions plan, and we're preparing a proposed plan for them to file with their building permit that will show a limit of work that runs along the existing edge of clearing. It'll be a straw wattle. The closest point of the addition to the wetland is 82 feet away from the wetland, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
And there's no increase in flow with this project. It's a 3-bedroom to a 3-bedroom.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we were out for site visits, so I'm going to ask Cinnamon to just go over what she saw out there.
Sure. I feel it was very straightforward. We did see some shrubbery, some native shrubbery that I believe will be moved within the process. I just wanted to confirm that. And I also, you just answered a couple questions we had about gutters or dry walls, and you are installing dry walls. And there's also a question about the limit of work needing to be depicted on the site plan. So it sounds like you addressed that. I don't think we had any other concerns. It seemed very straightforward.
Okay. If I might add, we did talk to the homeowner when we were out there this morning. There were some shrubs in the area where the work was going to be going on, and she said they would be moving them to a different location. So we'd like to include that as part of any conditions for the project.
We can show it on our proposed plan. That's not a problem.
Okay, I don't think anybody felt, it's a pretty, it's not a well-vegetated area, so you're not disturbing a lot of vegetation going in there. So I don't think it needs mitigation beyond moving the shrubs. Okay, I'm going to ask if anybody else on the commission has any questions or concerns. Okay, I don't see any. I'm going to ask Alex if he wants to recommend any conditions for this project.
Sure. I could recommend 24 hours work notice. We'll condition moving the shrubs. I would like a depiction of the limit of work on an updated plan. And then I would like to do a site visit prior to the start of work to inspect the installation of that limit of work before construction starts. That's all I had.
All right. Anybody have anything else to add to that? Okay, so we might have a motion for that, 24 hours work notice, a condition about moving the shrubs, depiction of the limit of work, and a site visit prior to the work done by our conservation agent, and then a determination of a positive 2B and a negative 3.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Joanne,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think we can go back now. Don Warren, are you vocal?
Karen?
You are. Okay.
Karen?
So yes, because I can hear you. I'm going to open that hearing then.
Okay, Don Warren.
Yeah, let me just open the hearing, and I just wanted to make sure you were there before I did that. We have a request for determination of applicability filed by Andrew Minardi. Applicant proposes to remove existing paving stones, install a wooden boardwalk and decking in existing outdoor shower at property located at 47 Longstreet Lane, map 10, parcel 342A. And now if you would like to review that for us.
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Okay, well, we were out at the Skype this morning. I'm going to ask Cinnamon again just to go through what we saw out there.
Sure. So what we did see were existing pavers. They weren't set in anything. They were laying on the sand. So very easy removal of that. There wouldn't be any disturbance removing those. It is already an area that doesn't have vegetation. So the deck is going to be put flat on the ground. It's just some hand leveling that might need to be done. And then he's also proposing the decking in the existing shower using mahogany for all of it. So I don't think we had any concerns, big concerns about what was going on, what would be going on.
I just wanted to confirm that the boardwalk is going to be on the ground and not raised above. Was that correct?
Yeah, it's gonna be on the ground. It'll be like I told you this morning. I'll try to tie it in a couple places. The post for the shower stall, and maybe back toward the stairway that the walkway terminates at. But other than that, it's just going to be the weight of the materials keeping it in place.
Okay. Well, I have no further questions. Does anybody on the commission have anything additional? Janet?
I just wanted to check, do any trees or shrubs have to be cut to do this? They're doing it exactly where the paver stones are?
There's nothing there. There's beach grass, but no, not actually nothing really to be removed.
Thank you.
Okay. Alex?
I just wanted to make a recommendation to amend my recommended conditions for this project. After seeing the site, I don't believe sedimentation controls or soil stabilization with the native seed mix is necessary.
Okay. You had recommended special conditions for decks and sheds to us in the staff report. So I think what we really just need is 24 hours notice to the conservation department, right? And what else? Anything else?
No, I think 24 hours notice is sufficient.
Yeah, it's pretty light work there.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we could have somebody make a motion for a determination of a positive 2B and a negative 3 with the condition that the conservation department be notified 24 hours before any work is started.
Move to approve the proposal with a positive 2B, a negative 3, and the condition that the conservation agent is notified 24 hours before doing the work.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mike?
Yes.
Cinnamon? Joanne?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, and I think we're at the monitoring report for 20 Beach Road, and that's Crawford Landscaping. If you would. And our agenda item just says brief monitoring report for 20 Beach Road. So please, if you would identify yourself and give us an overview, please.
Yeah, hi. My name is Katie Krogmeyer. I work with Crawford Land Management. I am a newer project manager, but I'm working with the DeLeos on this project. So Alex kind of asked us to just give kind of a quick update on what's been going on and a timeline. So I'm going to give you guys a quick introduction. This project originally had the goal of protecting the dwelling at 20 Beach Road and preserving kind of the existing shoreline and hoping to restore the coastal dune. So last late winter, really early spring, there were some clear fiber envelopes that were installed on the property, as well as some coir rolls and a sturdy drift fence. In early spring, after those were installed, sand nourishment was applied on top of the structures to protect them into the season. There was another set of nourishment that went in May, and then after that, we were just monitoring from there, checking after every storm check or every big storm that we had. So there was a storm check in October, and then we had 2 or 3 storms this past winter this year that we also were checking on. So this previous spring, we actually went back and added some more nourishment to cover those structures once more. There was a little bit of erosion around the fiber roll area, so we also added some sand kind of to help put the fiber rolls kind of back into the original grade that they were at. And then we put a fiber blanket on top of that to kind of help reduce erosion in the future. And then we just recently, like last Friday, added the seasonal snow fence that was also approved as part of this project. But that wasn't on the monitoring report. We just weren't able to do it by the time the monitoring report was due. So at this point, that's kind of where we're at as far as the project goes. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you. We were out at the site this morning, and I do have
Okay,
some
great.
questions. I'm going to start with the seasonal snow fencing. You had an upper level one, and I'm not sure what that exactly is going to do for you up there. It's really like just sitting on top of a hill.
Yeah, so Nick Crawford should also be on this call, and he is much more better at the technical questions. So I'm going to defer to him if he is available.
And I asked it so technically
Hello.
too.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm here, Nick Crawford from Crawfordly Management. So the purpose of the two fences, the purpose of each one of them is the same. It's just that they do it in different areas. The lower drip fence knocks down windblown sand. Obviously it won't knock down all of it. So the upper fence is also knocking down windblown sand. So we hope to be able over the course of the summer to accrete some sand there blowing off the bay at low tide. And that's the purpose of two of them basically, is just the sand will build around the lower fence, and then at the same time the sand will build around the upper fence, and hopefully we can just accumulate more sand.
Okay, it didn't appear to me that there was much area around the upper fence for something to accumulate around.
Well, it just knocks it down, so if it hits the fence, it'll just fall out of the air, and end up on the seaward side of the fence.
Okay, I'm not objecting to it. I just didn't quite understand its purpose. Okay, and then you mentioned in your report, and we saw some of this on site, that some of the upper choir rolls are in poorer condition, with some of the choir material being lost. And what do you attribute that to? I know that they are not necessarily all covered with sand at this point, and we'll discuss that as well.
Yeah, so the coir fiber rolls at the, I guess it would be north end of the project, closest to the town parking lot.
Right.
Those are frequently exposed just due to the height of them and the elevations on the beach. The end of the installation is always the most prone to damage, as there's obviously nothing next to it protecting the coastal bank. So, over the course of the past 2 years, the coastal bank off property has eroded. My guess is probably 4 or 5 feet, because at the beginning of the project, we installed the top of the fiber roll array to the seaward edge of the top of the coastal bank. So as the bank adjacent to the project eroded, the end of the installation became, I feel like undermined isn't the right word, but it was able to go end around, go behind the installation and start taking material from behind it. So what that ends up doing is basically stealing material from behind the fiber rolls, and then the fiber rolls begin to, I'll call it sink, meaning like lay down flatter, have more of a gradual slope. So what we were able to do, to go in and completely like reconstruct the end of the installation would be a much larger project, and I don't think, in my opinion, we're not even close to that point of it being warranted. So what we did was, when we went out to repair the end of the coir fiber roll installation, is basically used an excavator to pull the rolls back up while simultaneously putting more material behind them. And then we just used some coir matting, stakes, and rope to stabilize and secure the material. And as I think Katie was able to show in her pictures, so that decreases the possibility of the installation being getting end around again. It's going to be it's the weakest point of the installation, given that the coastal bank used to be out to a certain point, and now after several years the erosion has eroded it back 3 or 4 feet at least. So that that's an area that we're paying special attention to and will continue to monitor. But right now, we repaired the installation with minimal effort and minimal work, as it wasn't really warranted to excavate down to the bottom of the installation and reinstall those rolls.
Okay, so if I'm hearing this right, that's basically some end scour going on. And I remember when we discussed this project, you said that would not be an issue.
In my opinion, I wouldn't call it end scour. I would just say that the area of coastal bank that's not protected, from the end of the installation all the way to the parking lot, has eroded another 3 to 4 feet. Whereas where the installation is in front of the coastal bank, it's been protected, and it has not. So it's not like there's a usually end scour, occurs in very close proximity to the end of the installation, within, I don't know, I mean, in my experience, like 5 to 10 feet. Whereas this erosion is kind of even all the way from the end of the installation to the parking lot. And as we know, we did have that, historic blizzard.
Right.
So I don't think that erosion outside of the installation limit of work is to not be expected.
But you're talking about some of that at the end of the work that might need to have some repairs or more work done to fix.
Potential. I mean, it doesn't at this point. I mean, we repaired it. We re-nourished over the top of it. And there are beach grass plugs going in there. So I don't believe that, at this point in time, it does not need repair.
But that's going to need close watching.
Yeah, we certainly need to keep an eye on that area. Absolutely.
Okay. And then just to go back to the choir in that area, that's the order of conditions was that it needs to be kept covered all the time. So what's up with that? And we know the choir only will last about 2 to 5 years, especially if it's getting a lot of UV exposure.
Yeah, I think 5 years on average would be like an average success. I'd say they have the ability to be anywhere between like 3 and 7 years. The Coir fiber rolls have the ability to last a lot longer. As far as keeping them covered, I mean, I do, we have, and the owners have done their due diligence to keep this covered. We've nourished numerous times in both springs after the installation was first installed and this past spring. We've also done nourishment as well. It does, gosh, I wish I had the order of conditions right in front of me. It does specify that they are to be maintained and kept covered, but it doesn't describe, and I'm not trying to split hairs here, but it doesn't describe like the interim amount of time. So, for example, if they were uncovered shortly after Christmas, the nourishment at that point in time has done its job. It's been released onto the beach. And we want to go ahead and nourish it again before the summer, so that we don't get that UV degradation. So, we're certainly way above and beyond the minimum amount of nourishment required per the low term erosion rate.
Right.
And this year we actually ended up trying to stack the sand kind of literally as high as possible over the installation, knowing that we do get these astronomical high tides in the spring. And so right before we put in that snow fence, we raked down, I guess, what you might call kind of extra material still within the confines of the project, but we raked that down to cover the envelopes again. And so we are, and the owners are putting forward their best foot to keep this covered and keep it planted. And that's all we can do.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we're going into a high UV season. So I just wanted to make sure that that's got the attention it needs.
Yeah, I mean, we made sure that I believe we nourished, well, Katie described the timeline, but I know that not this past spring, but the one before it, I believe we nourished 2 times past the initial installation. And then this season, I know that obviously the blizzard came and we were waiting for some sort of approval. So the chicken and the egg thing is that, yes, we're supposed to keep them covered, but it also takes a certain amount of time to get permission to use the landing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always the interim period where it remains uncovered before we covered it, just because we're getting permission to use that town landing again.
Right, but you
and
also
we're
had
trying-
permission. You also had permission to use the driveway on the property to access.
Correct. And I think the driveway on the property is conducive to doing kind of like, I don't know the right word for it, like minor touch up or minimal nourishment, but to bring in 300 yards over the property is
Okay, I see
a
where
little
you're going.
prohibitive. So we like to do the big one from the parking lot, and then kind of if it needs to be topped off again, we can go from the property, ideally.
Okay, I think that's all my questions. Let's see if there are others from the commission. Nobody? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming to talk with us.
No problem. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too. All right. Next up, we have a certificate of compliance filed by Mary Ellen McDonald for SE 19-1540 for the reconstruction of a front entryway and vista pruning at property located at 655 Herringbrook Road, map 14, parcel 015. Does anyone wish to speak on this? Okay, Jason, I think that was yours.
Yep. Yeah, this is a project that was done about 13 years ago. Keith Johnson from Billingsgate Land Management did the work here. And it's been a long time since it's been done, but I believe everything that he had proposed is complete and seems to be healthy and vegetated. So.
We were out there this morning. It all looks pretty good to us. Has there been any additional vista pruning since I guess the permit would have expired in 2016? Has there been any additional work out there? Because I'm not going to make a fuss over it, but it looks like it hasn't grown in any over that period.
Yeah, I don't. To my knowledge, I haven't been involved with it since we got it approved 13 years ago, but it appeared to me that there really hasn't been anything recently that was done. So
it all looked like it was perfectly fine and done appropriately. So I don't have any issues with that. And I think the thing we want to make a note of is just that no additional work can be done without a new permit.
Okay, sure.
But let me see if anybody on the commission has anything here.
Good to me.
Okay, seeing nothing, if we could have a motion to approve a certificate of compliance for SE 19-1540.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Seconded.
Okay, Janet? Janet? You're muted.
Yes, and Alex had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alex?
That's okay. I was just going to mention I'll include a letter with the certificate of compliance outlining that any additional pruning requires permitting.
Okay. Okay. So where were we? Mike?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. So there we go. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much.
And next up, we have, I'm going to open the next two together. Certificate of Compliance filed by Nathan Nickerson, SE 19-1631, for construction of a 12 by 16 shed at property located at 60 Briggsfield Road, map 08, parcel 308H. And Certificate of Compliance filed by Nathan Nickerson, SE 19-1709, for construction of addition to existing dwelling at property located at 60 Briggsfield Road, map 8, parcel 308H. And both of these are for work that was never started. We were out at the site. We didn't see any such work. And if we could have a motion to just close these out for the reason that the work was never undertaken.
Move to close this out, both 19-1631 and 19-1709, because none of the work was done.
And a
And the
second?
certificates have expired.
Second.
Okay, Cinnamon,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
and I am a yes. Okay. Okay, next we have a certificate of compliance filed by Edward Moino, SE 19-1437, for maintenance of a view easement and vista pruning at property located at 10 Drake Circle, map 17, parcel 538. And they've asked for continuance to June 9th, 2026. If somebody would make that motion.
move to continue to June 9th, 2026.
And a second, please.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Janet,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
and I am a yes.
Karen,
And yeah,
before you move on, there's supposed to be an L in front of the Y. His name is Molyneux.
okay. Well, it's good to know. Agenda error. And I just realized we moved on from 25 Seaview without voting to lift the stop work order. So if we might just pause and have a motion to do that now.
Move we lift the stop work order for, what is it, 20, 25?
For hold on. For 25 Seaview Road and 1080 State Highway.
Right. For those locations.
Okay, and a second, please.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. Janet,
yes,
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. And you guys are supposed to remind me when I forget. Okay. All right. So next up, we have a continuation of Certificate of Compliance filed by Kenneth Rotner, SE 19-1758, for the demolishment of an existing building and constructing a new building at property located at 345 Shirtlift Road, map 07, parcel 165. And they've asked to continue this to June 9th, 2026. So if somebody might make such a motion. Just say so moved.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Anna. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Chuck,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, and then we have an administrative review filed by Ara Jalalian. Applicant proposes to remove 5 trees at property located at 385 Saltworks Road, map 04, parcel 002. And is somebody here to speak on this?
I am. Ara Jalalian is here.
Okay. Hi, if you just would like to review real quickly with us.
We noticed a couple of trees, one on the side of our yard, one more in the back of the yard. It's some breed of pine tree. You have to forgive my ignorance of horticultural knowledge here. But we noticed that last year we thought it was dead. And when we returned this year, we basically confirmed, yes, it is dead. So we wanted to file a petition to get those 2 removed. And while we were at it, we thought, well, let's survey the rest of the property and see what else is dead that maybe we should get rid of to make the property look better. So those are the 5 trees in question.
Okay, thank you. And we were out there for a site visit, and we're very pleased to meet you this morning. I'm going to ask Greg if he wants to review what he saw out on the site.
Yes, on our site visit, we went out and looked at the dead trees, and certainly the trees were dead. We did wonder if there's one tree on the garage side, it's a fairly large tree. We were wondering if you might think about or consider keeping that one as a snag, maybe limbing it and leaving it as a snag behind.
Yes, that's fine. We received a request from one of our neighbors years ago to have that tree taken out, but it's the least concern to us, selfishly I may add, just because it's on the side of the garage and back. No one looks there. So anything that will help out, make the neighbor feel better, but also get it partially moved, that'd be great.
Very good.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? Okay, Greg, you want to try the motion?
All right. I've got something, Karen.
Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I'll just mention, when you limit, you could also top it to 12 to 15 feet. So you could bring the height down too, if that would also make your neighbor feel better.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and I see Janet's hands up, and I'm sorry I skipped over you.
Okay. I have a question about mitigation. The people who were out there, did you think any was necessary?
It seemed like a very well vegetated site, I think. If anybody else wants to say something on that.
Agreed. There's one right next to the house, and the homeowner was already talking to Alex about what type of tree to place in that particular spot next to the house. But the rest of it's there were multiple trees in the area.
Thank you.
Okay. So no more questions? Greg, you want to try making the motion?
Alex, did you have a question?
I'll just mention in the permit, I'll condition the planting of a native shrub. That the property owners have talked to me about their willingness to mitigate one of the trees on the properties, but like the commission said, it's a very nicely naturalized lot with a lot of native trees and shrubs. But if they'd like to plant a native tree or a shrub, all the better.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the administrative review for 385 Saltworks Road for the removal of the 4 dead trees with the limbing and basically topping of the additional tree in the back of the garage. And also with the condition of the additional shrub being planted.
Okay, very good. Somebody would like to second that?
Second.
Okay, Joanne?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And I am a yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we have an administrative review filed by John Cannon. Applicant proposes to remove 3 trees. The property located at 65 Piper Lane, map 12, parcel 265.
Yep, John's here.
Okay, if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
John Cannon here, property owner.
Okay, and if you could just give us a quick overview of what you're looking for.
Sure. So first of all, there's a little clerical typo. It's actually 5 trees, not 3. One of which was broken along Mall Pond on our property over the winter. The other 4, which are close to the house and have deteriorated over the years, and so we don't want to take them down, but we feel like we need to take them down in order to avoid them falling on their own.
Okay, thank you. And we were out at the site, and I'm going to ask Greg again.
Yes, couple questions. You're also going to add 4 river birch trees as mitigation?
We are, yes.
Okay. And yeah, with the trees, it's a very well vegetated area, heavily vegetated, and the trees are basically, one's growing through the deck and the other 3 are right over the house. One of them is, I think, broken down near the water. So I think this is an appropriate action.
I do have one question for the trees that you're planning to plant. What size are you looking at to plant?
So we haven't purchased them yet, but we're looking to get river birches, hopefully around 12 foot. I would hope to start. We planted a number of those on the other side of the property maybe 8 years ago, and they've taken well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from anybody? Okay, Greg, you want to try another motion?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve this administrative review at 65 Piper Lane to remove 4 pine and 1 oak tree with mediation of 4 river birch trees, approximately 12 feet in height.
Okay, and I think we did forget last time that you might want to add into that special conditions for tree pruning and removal
Okay.
in your motion.
Okay. So with special conditions for tree pruning and removal. Thank you.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Janet,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, thank you so much. Enjoy your trees.
Thank you very much.
Let's see. Next up, we have a continuation of administrative review filed by Daniel Jenkins. Applicant proposes to remove down trees and 5 large pine trees at property located at 165 Ginger Plum Lane, map 17, parcel 735. And they've asked to continue this until June 23rd, 2026. So if somebody would like to make a motion.
Move to continue to June 23rd, 2026.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Janet,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Cinnamon,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
and I am a yes. And next we have a continuation of administrative review filed by David and Julie Springwater. Applicant proposes to remove 6 trees and remove a branch from another tree at property located at 30 Drake Circle, map 16, parcel 002. And I just note for the record that I was absent from the May 12th meeting and have since reviewed the video and submitted my required Mullen letter to be able to participate in this. And I will ask who's here to speak to this.
Hi, this is Julie Springwater. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm here to speak to it, but I'm not. What I would like to propose is the gentleman who is actually going to do the work on the property, Sean Crehan from Saber Tree, had to leave the meeting because he could only be here until 7. So what I'd like to do is to ask for continuation to the next meeting to make this decision.
Okay, we do that. I think next time if he just lets us know he has to leave early, we might be able to adjust.
Okay, I'll tell him that, but next time he said he'll be there in person. So,
Oh, okay. Okay. So to the next meeting. The next meeting is June 9th.
yes.
Okay. So if we could have a motion.
Motion to continue to June 9th, 2026.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Cinnamon.
Vote because I didn't do the Mullen.
Oh. All right. Thank you. Joanne?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay. Thank you. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And next we have a continuation of after the fact administrative review filed by Linwood and Stacy Bradford. Applicant proposes to install windbreak fencing near the top of the coastal bank at property located at 225 Sparrow Road, map 01, parcel 190. And this also has to be continued until June 9th. And I will note for the record that I have also completed the required Mullen filing for this. So if somebody would like to make a motion to continue to June 9th.
Move to continue to June 9th, 2026.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Joanne,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
and I am a yes. And next up is a notice of intent filed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Applicant proposes to replace two failing timber retaining walls with new stone retaining walls at property located on the Cape Cod Rail Trail between Samoset Road and Locust Road. And if you would introduce yourself for the record, please.
Sure, I'm Lindy Knott. I work for the Department of Conservation and Recreation in the Trails and Greenways section. With tonight, I have a representative from both our on-call design consultant and our environmental consultant. That is Elise D'Onofrio from Stantec and Brian Madden from LEC, who most of you met this morning. And it's good to see you again.
Yeah, welcome. If you could just review real quickly what the project is.
Absolutely. Between the causeway between Samoset Road and Locust Road has some severe erosion on the east side of the trail. There are two failing timber retaining walls. One is a significant size of approximately 25 feet. Further up north, there's a 4-foot wall. And in the interim of reviewing this, we found a third location that has no wall, but we'd also like to install a small wall there too. So all said, 3 new walls going in this area with a slight shift of the trail that will be imperceptible. There's plenty of room on the westerly side because there's a 4-foot wide equestrian trail so that we can shift the trail slightly over a period of distance where it will be imperceivable, but that will allow for us to put a new stone wall where the existing timber walls are and not lose ground towards the pond. We backfill behind the wall, shift the trail over, and reinstall the guardrail to hopefully keep the public and everyone safe from going down that slope in the future. But mostly it's to maintain not only the rail trail, but to keep the rail trail out of the pond where it's slowly making its way down right now.
Okay, thank you. And as you mentioned, a bunch of us were out there this morning to take a look. I'm going to ask Mike if he can start us off.
Sure. It's very clear that the erosion is right up to the edge of the paved trail and is dangerous. The wooden fence, in fact, has already been barricaded off quite nicely with nice orange I would say Jersey wall, but it's not really a Jersey wall, but it's substantial enough to prevent anybody from going off the trail and going down that very steep ravine. Um, the I don't have any questions. I don't have anything else to add. It seems to be very straightforward, and thanks for presenting to us tonight.
Thank you, Mike.
Anybody have any questions? I'm going to say I think this was a very, very thorough filing you gave us, and I did appreciate speaking with you at the site visit, and I do not have any questions. I think you've really covered everything very well. It's clear that this is a much needed addition and improvement to the conditions there. So I think the only thing left we kind of need to talk to is if there's any conditions attached to this, and I'm going to ask Alex if he wants to make some suggestions.
Cinnamon also.
Oh, Cinnamon also. Should we have Cinnamon go first, Alex? Okay, go ahead, Cinnamon.
We were wondering about the timeline for when the work will be done.
And Cinnamon, that's a great question. We have that spend it or lose it deadline of June 30 every year. We'd love to get this done before June 30. At this point, I think that might be an unattainable goal. But we're trying to pair, public safety, not losing the whole trail. That'll be a bigger construction, project that we don't want to get into, but also not disrupting the flow of usage over the summer. We really were up against it, like a lot of people on the Cape found this winter. We thought we had just a wee bit more time with this, but this really come to push a shove. So if we can get our ducks in a row, we still have NHESP to review that third smaller wall up there, but we could parse that out and do it separately. But we'd really like to get this big wall, the first one where we all stood around this morning, and then that second little additional, which is not a wall replacement. We're just going to install the wall there because it's eroding as well. We'd love to get it done by June 30, and that is our intention. The contractor is ready to go. It's just a matter of us getting the permission to go ahead and do it.
And how long would it take once you start?
The estimate is 10 days. So barring any, unforeseen stretches of rain, that's not a bad time frame. And I think they've gone a little heavy on that too, especially with that third wall not being super big. It's the bulk of the project is that big first wall that's going to be 45 feet in length.
Okay, so there's no NHESP on the third wall. The area in the filing showed that the work was outside of that.
It is. I think we're just erring on the side of caution to have them review it. We filed the MISA checklist because of staging. And it's not as if we would stage material there in that, it's in the western edge, that Commons rosette grass. But it's just, equipment, how job sites go. So we're just erring on the side of, caution to see what they would recommend. If there is a delay in any of that for that third wall, we would talk to you and ask that we go ahead and be able to do the other two walls first and circle back once we've worked with NHESP for that. Because again, it's a tiny wall compared to the other two. It's just we're trying to capture it all in one fell swoop if we can.
Okay, I think that if NHESP does require some conditions, that you need to circle back with us as well so that we can review them with you and see if we need to make any changes in the conditions that we have.
Yes.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, will that whole corridor be shut down on both ends?
We would try to keep it open.
Okay.
If we cannot keep it open, there will be a point when we shift the paved portion of the trail that will have to be shut down because we're going to mill and mill and overlay, but also shift about 18 inches westward to gain us a little bit of shoulder on the east side to then be able to reinstall the safety fence. But again, that work I think would not take that long. And if we have to, we would push off to the fall. Not our preferred option because of the condition of those 3 locations. But if it came to that, we would try to just even secure that site even more for the summer so that we could just come in the fall and do it all at once when there's far fewer people. Like just being out there today, it was heartening to see how many people out there, but also disheartening because with every day it's getting busier and busier. And I'm thinking how can we keep this open, but get the work done too?
Mm-hmm. And if you close it, that puts all those bikers out on the roads, which has its own issues.
Exactly. I know there is a bike around, but it's not our preference because it puts people on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Karen.
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
just
Chuck?
going to suggest that maybe they can just coordinate with the police and run a detour. You can detour it down to Great Pond Road and take it up the Locust Road and put them back on the trail up there.
Yep.
That is what we were looking at. Worst case scenario, if we do need to close it down completely for short periods during the construction, we'd reroute that loop.
Mm-hmm. Or reroute through Mill Road is another option. Okay.
Either way.
Any good idea? Any other questions, comments? Okay, so Alex, any thoughts on how we condition this?
Yes,
aside from the NHESP.
Correct. Yeah, so my thoughts on this one were to just include our standard conditions. I'm looking through my staff report, and the conditions that I included there do not accurately reflect our standard conditions. So apologies on my end. It was almost as if I was trying to get out of the office before a holiday weekend, but I'm going to read off some of our standard conditions, just for the record. We do informing the contractor and engineers, so all project contractors will need to be aware of these special conditions. Contractors will have the agreement to follow the order. We want qualified contractors doing the work. The order needs to be recorded prior to any work starting. If there's any other permitting that needs to be completed, that needs to be done before the start of work. Work cannot start until after the appeals period. Myself and the commission will have a right of entry during the construction period. The order is valid for 3 years. Approval plans and supporting documents, so all details on the approved plans shall be strictly adhered to. We'll want a DEP sign posted. A pre-construction meeting, work notice. And I think that's all.
Plus the updating us when the
Correct.
NHESP makes
Correct.
the determination.
Correct.
And then reviewing that section.
That sounds reasonable. I think I can do all that.
Okay. Would somebody like to make that motion? To approve the project with the conditions outlined by Alex.
Move to accept the project with the conditions outlined by Alex.
And do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay, Chuck?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I am a yes. And we are good to go. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time today and tonight.
Thanks
Take
so
care.
much.
All right, and next we have a continuation of notice of intent filed by Michael and
I didn't vote on that. Do I need to vote?
oh, did I not call you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Don't be sorry. It's been a long day.
Oh, I have a list, I'm pretty sure. Okay, I apologize. It's been a very long day.
Yes.
4 hours of site visit tends to do that. Okay, next we have a continuation of notice of intent filed by Michael and Allison Garrity. Applicant proposes to replace the septic system at property located at 65 Harms Way, map 01, parcel 100. And just noting for the record, I was absent from the May 12th meeting and have completed all the Mullen requirements to be able to participate and vote. And Robert Reedy, I believe this is you.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Chair. Thanks for having me, Commissioners. For the record, Robert Reedy, engineer with J.M. O'Reilly and Associates, representing Michael and Allison Garrity, property owners at 65 Harms Way. This is, as the Chair stated, a continuation from last meeting. We were waiting on the DEP file number as well as feedback back from NHESP regarding this project. We have now gotten that feedback back from NHESP. I did have a chance to review those conditions, and certainly we will comply with those conditions and would ask that those be included as part of the order of conditions. Just as a quick reminder, this is a replacement of an existing underperforming IEA system that was not meeting its nitrogen treatment numbers. So the Board of Health has required this system be upgraded. So we are replacing it with a IEA septic system that will meet the required treatment numbers. So this will certainly be an improvement from a septic standpoint relative to existing conditions. I'd be happy to answer any questions the Commission has about the project.
Okay, I'm going to go first. I watched what the discussion was last time, and I noticed that there wasn't any discussion about the coastal dune standards in 10.28, and there was no discussion, and this is not in your filing either, that the performance standards in our local Eastham wetlands regulations, section 6, additional regulations for areas of special concern, special environmental concern, and that was not included. So I would like you to talk about or ask for
Sure.
a continuance to address how this project addresses those standards and whether they actually meet any of those standards, and what alternatives there might be so that they would comply with those performance standards.
Sure. I'm sorry, I think it broke up for a second there. You'd like me to discuss the coastal dune performance standards?
Yes, and also the ACEC regulation.
Sure. So I should state, I should have said at the beginning, I did not actually submit this filing. I'm here on behalf of John O'Reilly, who's actually submitted the filing, but he has a conflict with Brewster Conservation tonight. So I'm again here on his behalf, like I was a few weeks ago. But Alex did send me an email a little bit earlier today, letting me know that the commission would have questions about coastal dune performance standards. So I do have those in front of me. So I'm just reviewing the coastal dune performance standards first, starting with affecting the ability to affect waves to remove sand from the dune. We are not proposing any other structures. It's simply going to be a sand fence that would be installed in front of where the existing and proposed septic system both currently are. The existing retaining wall will remain as is, so no changes to any of the structural components surrounding the dune. Moving to B, while we will be disturbing the vegetative cover during the time of construction, the area will be replanted with American beach grass, and it will be replacing largely invasive vegetation, which is currently in the area. So would view that as an improvement that would certainly in the long term stabilize the bank more than a lot of the invasives currently do. Moving to C, modification of the dune. We will not be modifying the dune form in any meaningful way, essentially just evening off the grade right above the septic system in order to meet Title V requirements for separation distance with groundwater and also relative to the surface. But the dune structure will remain largely as is. Again, moving to D, no construction that would interfere during construction or in long term with the landward or lateral movement of the dune, affecting the ability for the removal of sand. And again, also American beach grass would be a preferred habitat for bird nesting relative to the existing invasives. Again, in my non-wetland scientist semi-professional opinion. So moving from there to the ACEC regulations, just reviewing specifically the local ACEC regulations, I believe. While there will be, again, removal of existing vegetation, this would be, again, just within the area that the proposed leaching facility will be installed. I mean, obviously, we have to disturb it in that area. It would be limited to that area only. Obviously, by us putting the proposed leaching and septic tank in the same area as where the existing system is, that limits our disturbance versus if we were to put it anywhere else. And obviously, we will be replanting the area after construction and installation is done. There's no dumping, filling, paving, removal of material, dredging, or altering that would be done as part of this installation. It simply would be installing within the existing dune. No construction of any other components, and certainly no underground storage of gasoline, oil, or any fuels or hazardous materials. I believe I addressed the performance standards both of the ACEC and Coastal Dune, but I'd be happy to answer any other questions that the commission has.
So the new septic system is about 1.5 times the old one in size. I'm looking at the site plan here.
It is a little bit bigger, but not too much. I would say it's a pretty similar footprint, and certainly a little bit further landward than the existing system.
Well, it does appear to be about 1.5 times. So how does that not change the form of the dune?
Well, again, I mean, it's not like we necessarily have an alternative in this scenario where we're bound by Title V to design a system that meets the existing requirements. So, within what we're able to do here, this is, we're searching for maximum feasible compliance here. But, a septic system replacement within a coastal dune, obviously there's only so much that can be done to avoid any sort of disturbance whatsoever. That there is disturbance involved with the septic system replacement, and we do have to meet the requirements of Title V in order to make sure that we're protecting the environment from a Title V standpoint.
Right, but we also have to meet the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act as well, and I just want to make sure that we're going over all of that in enough detail to make sure that we're doing the maximum we can, not to disturb anything here that shouldn't be disturbed. So let me think on that a bit. Talk to me about the sand fence. It seems like it's a very narrow area to be adding a sand fence, and that perhaps the beach grass planted in alternating staggered rows would do an equivalent job of collecting sand and helping to maintain dune stability.
Well, we are proposing both American beach grass and sand fence. The intent is to go above and beyond to try to do everything we can to not, make the dune stability any worse than it would otherwise have to be as a result of this necessary disturbance of this area. If the commission felt that it would be better off without the sand fence, we certainly are open to any suggestions the commission has as it relates to that. Obviously, the intent here is to do the least amount of disturbance during construction and also during long term after stabilization. So,
yeah, I'm not sure that the sand fence is necessary there or would do much of anything, but I would yield to the rest of the commission on that. Yeah, I'd be interested to know if anybody else on the commission has any concerns over the coastal dune performance standards here. Janet?
Yes, I do. And I wondered why you didn't propose any other areas for the location of the system.
Well, I certainly would be open to any suggestions as to a better location. I would certainly, from my professional opinion, suggest that this is the proper location. There's an existing retaining wall, which certainly helps from a perspective of allowing us to have enough elevation for a leaching facility that has proper separation from the bottom of the leaching facility to adjusted high groundwater, which is certainly a Title V requirement that we have to meet. So the only other option would be to the north of the property, which again, looking at the elevation characteristics of the two sides, this would be the better area of the two, and we would have all the same, issues that we have on the north side as we have on the south side, with the, additional caveat that we would also still have the existing septic system, which is down in the south side area, which would need to be abandoned. So it would involve disturbing both the north and the south side if we were to move up to that side. But again, from an elevation standpoint, which is one of the most important characteristics here, we need an area that we can elevate the leaching facility as much as possible so that we can provide as much separation between the leaching facility and groundwater. From a Title V perspective, we're required to do that.
And I also have a concern, as Karen stated, about the size of it. Was this required by the Department of Health?
Yeah, so it's a 4-bedroom dwelling. So we're required for a 4-bedroom dwelling to provide 110 gallons per day of flow per bedroom. So 440 gallons per day is required. And the leaching facility as sized, it's by unit because as I discussed at the previous meeting, we're using plastic units that allow for less disturbance during construction than if we were to use concrete. And the calculation for the 16 units that we have comes out to 444 gallons per flow, which is just about exactly at the 440 required. So we have to meet a minimum of 440 gallons of flow, and the size that we're showing is 444. In terms of anything that would be an option that would involve a lesser footprint, that's really not available to us without asking for a variance to just shrink the size of the system. But, the volume that's required, you have to get it one way or another. And when we can't go deep, which obviously we can't here with groundwater being a concern, wide is the only other way to go. And this is the size that allows us to get to the capacity that's required for Title V.
Thank you.
Chuck?
I think the septic issues outweigh the dune issues. There's ways to repair a dune. There's not ways to repair a septic system that fails and gets into the marsh and stuff. So I don't have a problem with the current plan.
Okay. And let me ask, because I meant to, what about options like a tight tank instead of this?
So the project will be going before the Board of Health on Thursday. And the assumption generally with the Board of Health is that a tight tank is a last resort when a septic system is simply not an option. The concern with tight tanks is that it puts a heavy onus of maintenance on property owners and on the town in terms of oversight of those tight tanks. So typically town health departments and boards are hesitant to put those in unless they're absolutely required. Because again, obviously the concern when there's no treatment system there whatsoever, and obviously there was some sort of an outbreak of a septic tank with completely untreated sewage is much worse than, an IA septic system that's a best available nitrogen treating, reducing technology that is properly releasing the effluent after it's been treated. So generally the assumption is that's what the health department would require in this case. If the plans were rejected, then that would be a worst case scenario. But the assumption is that's not what they would ask for.
Okay, I'm just noting that this is one of the most environmentally sensitive areas in Eastham. As you know, because you've had that very long list of resource areas that this property sits right smack on, not adjacent to, but on and in. And one would think that approving of any septic system here would be a little bit fraught from those, but it sounds like there are really no other feasible alternatives for this location. And
Not
we have
until-
gone, yeah. And we have gone through the performance standards. I say we probably could turn you down, but that wouldn't really get us anywhere because then we'd end up in appeals and we'd probably get overturned. So I'm going to give in gracefully. Okay, so I just want to ask if anybody else has any additional questions or concerns here. Otherwise, it looks like, yes, Janet?
I noticed in the letter from well, first of all, when were you proposing to do this work?
So that's a good question. We still have to get approval from the Board of Health. So, any sort of construction would be subject to approval by not only conservation, but also by the Board of Health, and then issuance of those documents. So, at this point, with that meeting being on Thursday, obviously the construction is not happening before June 1st. I don't think that's possible at this point. My assumption is that it would not be happening this summer, but I don't know.
And it's not because there are emergency conditions, correct?
Well, I certainly think that they are under an order and there is a time constraint as to when they would need to have this done. But in terms of what the time frame that the Board of Health will require, I think that would probably be pending based on the Thursday meeting as to.
Well, according to the letter from NHESP, they talked about the diamondback terrapins and, of course, the piping plovers as being affected at certain times, including from June 1st on for the terrapins. And it was also stated that you should install a fence that would be 2.5 feet above the ground and 4 to 6 inches buried. And I'm concerned about that because usually when fences are put up within an area like this, they have to be 6 inches off the ground. But to protect the diamondback terrapins, they want it buried. You have a comment, Karen?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm something of a experienced terrapin person, having, just for Bob Breedy's edification, having done conservation work with Audubon for 12 years. The terrapins would you definitely need to have the fence dug in because the terrapins will dig under that, or they alternately will probably try to nest right up against it. And they dig a nest maybe 13 to 18 inches deep. So you really want to have something that would keep them out of the area while you're working so they don't wind up nesting in there. And you want to be very, very careful not to disturb any turtle eggs that you find. And if you do find any turtle eggs in the middle of your work, you really do want to get in touch with Mass Audubon so that they can come and relocate them to an appropriate place, because most of the terrapin eggs do not survive. And then if they do hatch, they don't survive to adulthood. So any that get killed off, you definitely put a big ding in the population going forward. So you do have to have a pretty robust exclusion scheme to keep them out of the work area. So that includes making it so that they can't climb over. This is obviously a very nice area where terrapins would very much like to nest. So NHESP has recommended something that's pretty robust here so that you could possibly work during terrapin season. And they do require a state approved biologist to come in and check that installation. So I think that's a pretty robust set of conditions there. But it sounds like you might not be able to work until after the summer.
That seems likely, I would say. And obviously, depending on what time of year construction has started, we would certainly be in touch with the conservation department and coordinating whatever biologists inspection services would need to be procured prior to construction. But my assumption is that that's something that we would be able to work with Alex on to make sure that we're complying with all those.
Yeah. Unless it's after like October 14th, in which case then you don't need to exclude them anymore. So that would be okay. Any other questions, concerns? I'm going to ask if there are any abutters on the call who would like to weigh in here. Okay, and not seeing any, we're looking for a motion. So if we could have a motion to approve with the inclusion of the special conditions from the NHESP to include a pre-construction meeting and special conditions for septic upgrades. Let me just double check. Alex, did I miss anything?
Nope, that sounds good.
Okay, if somebody would like to make that motion.
So moved what you stated.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Okay, Cinnamon. Oh, wait a minute. You weren't at the meeting, so you
Yeah.
can't vote. Janet,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Chuck,
yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we have a staff update. Alex?
Yes, let me give you a quick update on 157 Brownell. So as the commission is aware, at our last meeting on May 12th, you approved an emergency certification request for the demolition of that property. We're still pursuing some permitting through the town, and then we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's on that, and so we're anticipating the demolition to be within the next 1 to 2 weeks. And then furthermore, I was able to get Restore Cape Cod out to the property last week to remove the cabinets. They took some appliances. They had interest in copper piping. What else did they take? Some of the doors. And so that'll minimize the construction debris during the demolition, which is certainly great. And, we're certainly in favor of, any of these, excuse me, items being, put back to use and reused. So I was happy that we were able to get them out there, and they were able to finish that work pretty quickly within a couple hours. So that was 157. If the commission doesn't have any questions on that, that's the only staff update I have for you this evening.
Okay, thank you. Alex,
Janet's got a question.
go ahead.
Do they have to test for asbestos in any way before they demolish it?
Yes, we are pursuing asbestos testing. I believe that happened, if not today, I think perhaps yesterday, and so we're still awaiting the results for that.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, next we have a liaison report. And I will start with Cinnamon.
I attended the Open Space Committee Wednesday of last week. We will be approaching conservation with a couple upcoming projects. They'll be reaching out to Alex about that. We're doing about monthly walks at all the sites, partnering up with another member. I'm removing some owl houses that have been laying on the ground, I guess, for a couple of years from Southeast Ham. So it's a great bunch, lots going on. And I know Alex, like I said, there's some follow-up needed with Alex.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question. You guys don't have any presence at Windmill Weekend, correct?
The Conservation Commission? No.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
The Open Space Committee usually has a table.
Right. They're kind of holding us to needing to be there 2 full days, and we're kind of having we're wondering if we'll be able to schedule it or if we would join forces with other, not committees through the town, but other like-minded groups.
We could put this on the work session schedule.
Okay.
To see if maybe the commission wants to be there for part of the time.
Okay.
If you guys could think about whether that's something of interest.
And we're still thinking about it too, if we're gonna commit, so, yeah, but
Oh.
I would,
Okay, the Open Space Committee has been at Windmill Weekend for a few years, so it would be a
yeah,
shame.
it would be a shame not to go, and I think we all know that. It's just, like I said, they're holding us to the 2 days of needing to man, so.
And that's a lot. It's not a huge committee, and that's a big commitment. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll ask Janet, any updates from the CPC committee?
No, our next meeting is June 13th. I think it's the 13th.
All right, Greg, Forest Committee?
Nothing new to report with forestry. I still have some paperwork to work out with Alex. I'll take care of that moving forward.
Okay, the
Great.
strategic planning committee met recently with the climate action committee was with us to discuss the climate action plan, which was at that time about to be approved by the select board. It's since been approved by the select board, and they're going to be doing work to identify the highest priority items to integrate into the strategic plan. The strategic planning committee's next meeting is June 13th. And then in July, I believe it's July, the date hasn't been firmed up. We will be presenting to the select board any updates or changes that have been made to the strategic plan since it was last discussed with them. And that's all I've got there. Okay. Next, we have education and training update. Anybody have anything?
Hillary has her hand up.
Oh, I skipped over violations, didn't I?
It's totally okay. I was just going to add that the Board of Health is having a public hearing tomorrow on some regulatory revisions. There's sections on drinking water, there's sections on rental certificates, there's sections on wastewater, cesspool phase-out plans, environmentally sensitive lots, Kratom, which is a new opioid-like substance that's sold in gas stations and convenience stores, and a small change to the groundwater protection district. So if anyone's interested, it should be an interesting hearing.
Thank you. And I skipped over 2 whole agenda items. So let's go back and do the April 28th, 2026 minute. And let me ask if everybody's had a chance to review them. If anybody has any comments or questions there. Okay, and we'll thank Amy for doing a great job as usual and ask for a motion to approve.
Move to approve the April 28th, 2026 minutes.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, Mike?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Cinnamon?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Okay, and then, violations. 153 Brownell, and I'm going to ask Alex if he would just start us off here, give us an update on what's been going on.
Sure. Thank you, Karen. So as the commission's aware, at our last meeting on May 12th, there was a conditional approval of an emergency certification for the partial demolition and temporary relocation of the dwelling on that property. That approval was conditional of a escrow agreement being submitted to the Conservation Department. To date, that emergency certification hasn't been released. At a site visit on May 18th, it was brought to my attention that there was some substantial site work that was happening at the property. This included the clearing and piling of debris, the partial demolition of the dwelling, storage of machinery, the relocation of the shed, cutting of a tree, and then, the work without a permit. That same day I did issue a stop work order on the property. That stop work order is still in place. So tonight, the commission will be discussing, how to proceed with the emergency certification request, along with ratifying the citations and how to proceed with the stop work order as well.
So I guess we should ask if the property owners or their representative would like to address the violations before we move along. Richard Nyland.
Good evening. Thank you. Richard Nyland, I go by Chip, representing Cliff House. So to speak to the first question, you had three questions in front of you. One is the status of the emergency certification, and then the second has to do with the ratification of the penalties or fines, and then the third is a stop work order. So as far as the first is concerned, I happened to watch the May 12th meeting. I know, Madam Chair, you were not there at that meeting, but the owner presented a fairly comprehensive discussion and explanation of how they were going to go forward with a two-part approach with the house. First is to demolish that portion that is unusable, walk through the fact that that area the materials had been removed from inside and it was ready to be demolished. And the second part is to remove the remainder and to place that on a crib on a temporary basis, another portion of the site, while we go through a notice of intent process for purposes of having that house there for a longer period of time. And there was a protocol that Jason Ellis walked through, and I think that the commission was supportive of this. All of you have seen how close this building is to the eroding coastal bank, 4 to 5 feet away. And this obviously poses danger not only to the house, but clearly to the coastal bank in the event that there's continued erosion or something happens there. So I think everybody recognizes it's important that we move it. And the owner has apologized to everybody in town that he can find for going forward on the demolition portion last Friday that Alex referenced. And I don't think I dispute anything that Alex has offered in terms of his description of what's taken place, including the site visit and our agreement to stop work immediately. When I listened to the meeting last of the 12th, I know that one of the members said that they wanted to make sure that there was nobody down below the bluff when the work was taking place. And the one thing they did do is they made sure that there was no one. It was late in the afternoon on Friday, and the work that was performed. So I think that we put aside the fact that there was clearly a violation here, but I don't want to lose the fact that all of us, all of the members, have agreed with the building department, who's issued an order, as well as other members of the town, that we really do need to move this house off on a temporary basis. Again, it is temporary. We have to come back to you with a notice of intent, and there's an escrow agreement. I provide a copy to Alex and sent another copy of that to Alex Weisscheid. I haven't heard back from him in terms of whether that works, but I followed the request after watching the commission. It said that you want to make sure that there was an escrow to a third party, and that if the owner did not file the notice of intent within 30 days and did not move the structure within the 30 days, then that money could be used by a third party for demolition of the structure. So I think that you've already gone through that. We'd like to separate that out from the fines, and because we would like to go forward, we'd like to see the commission authorize the town council to review the proposed escrow agreement and to approve that so that we can go forward. Pick that up as Jason has laid out and with a great explanation, and move that over and get that away from that eroding coastal bank.
Okay, well,
I can address the fines afterwards. I thought we would, I thought you, it seemed to say you wanted to take them up one at a time.
well, I think we were addressing the totality of what's going on at this site, but the fines in particular. But I think in light of the fact that no permit had been issued, in light of the violations, the fact that I think you're misrepresenting somewhat what went on at the May 12th meeting. And I will state for the record that I did file a Mullen letter for this as well, that you're somewhat misrepresenting what went on at the May 12th meeting in regard to timelines and other things. But in light of the violations, the fact that a permit has not yet been issued, and the request to relocate the structure is beyond the scope of an emergency certification, because it is not the minimum amount of work necessary, and the work would not be completed within the 30 days per 10.06. And the work that was done without the permit was also beyond the scope of the emergency and beyond. I'm going to take it on myself to make a motion that the commission reconsider the emergency certification from May 12, 2026, and that also consider the fact that since then that there has been additional erosion along the coastal bank between 153 Brownell and 157 Brownell, and given that the 157 Brownell is going to be demolished this week, and we have unknown considerations about how that will affect the stability of the coastal bank for both houses, I'm going to make a motion that the commission reconsider the emergency certification from May 12th, that we take time to review it again in light of the changed circumstances. So I will ask if somebody would like to second my motion.
I second it.
Well, if I may, Madam Chair. So I sat through tonight and I listened to the last meeting, and this commission, like I sat on my commission for 9 years. I'm in a coastal community, and I sat through enforcement discussions, and this commission has, I think, approved at least 3 after the fact filings, which suggests to me that sometimes this happens, that work is done without going forward without a permit. I haven't heard any fines that you have assessed to anybody else who's done work and then has come back to the commission and asked for permission. Here, we followed the requirements. What we didn't do is the only thing that was left for us to do was to have the escrow agreement agreed to by town council. That everything else was approved. The building inspector has indicated that it is an emergency, and you've acknowledged that that's an eroding coastal bank. So the best thing for that to take place is for us to move that building. Whether or not that becomes a permit building site will be up to the commission. You clearly will have that authority when you review the notice of intent. But certainly something that we can do within the next 30 days. If you approve this, we can do it within 30 days. We've said that we have the contractor who's on a retainer to do that. You've seen Mr. Ellis's work, so these are people that you're familiar with, and we will get that done. And you should allow. You're not in a position to tell the owner that they have to demolish this house. We've asked for an emergency request to move it on a temporary basis.
Right. And this is not the same kind of violation that we discussed earlier during our meeting. This is a much broader scope of violation. You have an owner who has been in the business, I believe, for 35 years of contracting and development, who should know that he is not allowed to do any work without a permit in hand. And then he goes and does work not just the work that had been discussed, but additional work, including removing vegetation that was stabilizing the bank and moving a shed and other things without a permit in hand, without the escrow agreement, without having submitted the estimate for the demolition, and that there is a consideration here that a building that is being moved is not meeting the conditions of 10.06, which requires that all the work under the permit be completed within 30 days. And a building sitting still in the wetland area without a permit is not work completed within 30 days. And there were a number of change conditions here, and the work was done, and a motion has been called and seconded. Now I'm going to ask if the commission would like to discuss the motion before we go on, and then we can come back and talk about other things. But it seems to me like this is an opportunity. 10.6 requires the minimum amount of work to meet the emergency. It requires that all the work be done within the 30 days. It hardly seems that relocating the house would be considered an emergency, as there was an application for an emergency certification to the commission on February 10th, which was denied. There was another one on and not appealed. There was another one on March 3rd, which was denied and not appealed. And then there were 2 months between then, a little more than that, and the May 12th meeting, where a notice of intent could have been done and is permitted in the normal fashion. And that was not done. So I fail to see how relocating the house constitutes an emergency under the 10.06 either. I'm going to ask the rest of the commission to weigh in, as we've had a motion and a second.
What is it that you hope to achieve by doing this? What are we going to do if we all vote yes?
Well, then we will rediscuss the motion in light of what 10.06 says, in light of the additional work that's been done, and the change condition of the bank, also noting the location of the relocation of the house vis-a-vis the condition of the coastal bank once the house and the full basement have been removed, and the instability that would create at the location, which was not discussed at the last meeting. And that I don't feel like the 10.6 was adhered to. And I don't know if the members of the commission have read 10.06. To weigh in on it, Janet?
Yes, I seconded your motion, and I do it with regret that I believe we okayed something last week that we, at the last meeting, that we should not have okayed. The time limitation for the performance of emergency work shall not exceed 30 days. This is section 10.06, emergencies, and as you stated, this request was discussed on February 10th and March 3rd, so the 30 days definitely weren't complied with. We should not have passed it.
That's not what the 30 days means.
So can I think a lot was just expressed. I'm unclear on two things. One, why what I heard was that the escrow account was not completed. I'm curious why we didn't get to the issuing of a permit yet. Is it because of that or something else? I think those details are just kind of like blown past. And then number two, what Janet seconded is that we're reopening discussion of this matter. We're reopening the previous petition, or what are we actually reopening?
Reopening discussion of the emergency certification.
And And any additional details about why the rest of it, why it hasn't made more progress? In the interim between the last
well,
meeting?
I think Hillary wants to address that. Is that correct?
Yeah. I wanted to talk about why we didn't get to issuing the emergency certification. And that was because we did not receive the proper escrow documents and the money in a fund with someone to execute it. Mr. Zender, who was representing the applicant, has stepped away from the project after the stop work order was issued. And so when we went out to the site, we had no escrow agreement. We were actually looking at the other site and noticed something had happened on 153. And so we walked down the roadway and, then we saw that vegetation was cut, the shed was relocated, and the structure was gone. Half the structure was completely gone. And so that's when the stop work order got issued, and then no work could commence because the property was now in violation. So there's another process for that, an enforcement order. And how do we issue an emergency certification when we now have an enforcement order on our hands? Not to mention the site plan that was submitted with the application was not even adhered to. So the location of the shed is in the middle of the lot. The vegetation was cleared, straight to the property line on 157 Brunel. And all of the clipped vegetation that they collected from their lot is thrown onto town property and federal property. So it's not even as if the site was kept in a tiny manner on their locust lot. It's, on town property. There's a porta potty on town property. None of this was approved. And so it leaves us in a really awkward position because I too agree that the structure should be removed. Whether it's moved back or demolished completely, doesn't really have a bearing on me, but we need to do something, and now we're in a bind. And that's why nothing has progressed.
So as a quick follow-up to that, Hillary or Karen, are we in a place, and I'm curious what the rest of the commission thinks, it seems to me like we could be in a place where now what we voted on, the conditions have changed so much that now continuing on that process, Hillary, and finishing that process that we had started now doesn't make sense anymore because the conditions have changed so drastically. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I think the conditions have changed, and now, there's a need for mitigation. Do we allow violations to continue while we move a structure back, or do we mitigate what was damaged? Time is of the essence here. We don't have time to really contemplate much more, but if the commission is not comfortable at this point, based on what you heard, in moving a structure back because we don't know what that coastal bank is going to do, and you've now essentially destabilized it more by clipping down all the vegetation and what do we do?
Yeah, and also to consider that once the foundation does come out, the house relocation is very, very close to that site where the foundation was. And that essentially becomes the new edge of the coastal bank, given how much that foundation will destabilize the area. So I know you haven't been out to the site, but if you looked at the site plan.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Right on.
Yeah, we're trying to finish the process we started. I initially had no objections to moving the house back, but I think we all kind of tried really hard to get to yes at the last meeting at some sort of compromise. And it seems like almost as though the owner ignored what our agreement was. So now I think I agree. I at least would like to reassess where we are, given that I think there was a lot of goodwill or good faith at the last meeting, which seems to have been disappeared. Thanks.
Greg?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I agree with Joanne in that I voted affirmatively for the permit for the activity with the understanding that a permit would be in place. And that was one of the driving factors to my decision. So the fact that there is no permit to me is problematic at this point. because that was one of the basis of my decision was that there would be a permit. And so the work went forward without a permit, and that's a problem for me.
Mike?
Yeah, I would add that besides the permit, it still bothers me that it's been 3 months now and we haven't seen an NOI. And I think there's been time for diligence to be done by this client to help our committee go forward. And I haven't seen that level of scrutiny. I have seen what Mr. Ellis has done. That's a good start, but there's still additional work that needs to be done that I'd like to see.
We heard from Chuck.
I'm not happy with the way it worked out either. We were told that the building people had told these guys to go ahead and do this stuff and been on a little bit, and like was stated previously, on good faith we went forward and issued this thing, and it hasn't worked out correctly. So my real question when I started remains, which is, okay, then what are we going to do? Are we going to institute a fine? Are we going to, what do we do next?
Well, there's, I think in some ways it's all related, but there's also two separate things here in that we have the violations and we have the emergency certification, and we have to deal with the violations. And Alex so far has been issuing fines and did the stop work order. How those violations get addressed is still a very open question. And then the emergency certification, the conditions that you put on that in order to issue it were not completed, and then the work went ahead and not even work in compliance with what you had agreed to. So
does the certification itself expire, or are we looking at the requirements for 30 days in the condition?
Hillary, you want to answer that?
Sure. Once the certification is issued, they have 30 days to complete the work. We never got to the point of even issuing the certification.
Okay.
Greg?
My mistake.
Okay. I think Cinnamon can weigh in on the discussion, even if she, Hillary, Alex, Cinnamon was not at the May 12th meeting and did not submit a Mullen. Do you think she can weigh in on the enforcement part, but not on or just not on anything?
That's a good question. What are your thoughts on that, Hillary? I think perhaps Cinnamon can weigh in on the violation aspect,
but not on the emergency certification.
I would suggest that because the two are so entwined at this moment, she doesn't weigh in on it at all.
Okay.
Okay.
Who have we not heard from?
She will.
I think we heard from everybody. Do we? Okay. So any other discussion from the commission on this? Should I call a vote? Okay. Janet?
I had my hand raised. Do I get to respond, Madam?
Well, there was a motion and a discussion, and a motion and a second and a discussion, and now we vote. I think that is the procedure.
Remind us of what is before us for a vote.
There's a vote to reconsider the emergency certification.
I think there are just a couple of questions I would just like to address, if that's possible.
I will ask Alex and Hillary what the procedure is. It's my understanding that we have a motion and a second, and then we vote without additional input from anybody but the commission.
I think there will be opportunity for Chip to speak after you take the vote, because you're simply voting to reconsider the issuance of the emergency certification. You're not actually voting whether you're going to issue it or not issue it, just to further discuss it.
Yeah, correct.
That's where I think we are. So I'm gonna do a roll call vote. Janet,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay. So I think having decided to discuss it again, we perhaps want to look at the change conditions at the site, but we also want to review the initial emergency certification application. And I think we also need to review 10.06 that I do not think the commission has reviewed prior to discussing the emergency certification. I just want to ask, have you reviewed those regulations? Should we review them now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we should review them now.
Correct.
I could share my screen and put them up for you to read. If you give me a second while I find them.
Your mom's gonna yell at us.
Karen, do you want us? Oh, there you go.
Can you see? Can you see that? Is it big enough?
Yeah, it's plenty big enough.
Okay. I think I'll just let you all read it, and then when you're ready, I'll scroll down to the next page or next part. Somebody give me a heads up when you're ready to scroll.
I'm
Ready.
good. Everyone else?
Everybody good? Should I stop screen sharing? Everybody done?
I'm done.
I'm going to stop.
done.
Okay. Having read that, I'm going to ask if you have any thoughts based on that on the emergency certification. I think the key things are here is the minimum required to abate the emergency and that the work be completed within 30 days. Janet?
Yes, but also in addition, it states in section 1 that it shall not include work beyond that necessary to abate the emergency. And I understand from what Hillary and others have said that they want beyond that. In addition to putting things on the town's property. Those things were certainly are not okay. Thank you.
And then I question whether the house being moved and sitting beyond 30 days is within the scope of the length of an emergency certification.
Yes.
And I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. And once the commission weighs in, Chip, I will let you speak next.
After all the commissioner, or is it okay for me to speak now?
Well, I asked them if they would consider whether leaving the house sit beyond the 30 days is within the scope of an emergency certification that requires the work to be done within 30 days. It is within the scope of the regulation.
Right. So a couple of things.
I was hoping that they would respond to that,
okay,
and then
sure.
then you can have your turn.
All right. I'll wait until the commissioner's finished. Then. Thank you.
Greg?
It doesn't appear so. I mean, based on what I just read. So if it wasn't done in 30 days, it's not within the scope of that regulation.
Anybody else?
I concur with Greg's statement.
Joanne?
I'll say I think you can argue it either way, which is less work, moving the house or taking it down, and then you're doing the minimum amount of work within that 30 days. So I'm not 100% convinced that you couldn't argue that moving the house is the minimum work and that minimum work is then completed by finishing the moving of the house. So I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm also saying I think it could be read either way, in my opinion.
But then the house is sitting there without a permit and an authorization to be in the wetlands area.
So, but under the 10.06, the movement of the house has been permitted. So the second part of what you're saying, that could be discussed, but under this specifically, the minimum amount of work is completed by moving the house. It opens up other stuff, but for this particular one, I think it's still satisfied.
But it doesn't have authority to stay there. So is that completed?
Yeah, well, I mean, if the permit is for the moving of the house, then yes, it is completed. But if it doesn't have permission to stay there, then that's a different statute or different part of the law.
It seems to be part and parcel to me. You can't move something to a place where it doesn't have a right to stay because it doesn't have a permit to stay there. So therefore,
that's not what the emergency.
It's part of it. You can't move something to a place it's not allowed to be.
Does it say that in this text? I'm just saying, you are correct.
That's the corollary to.
You are correct potentially in the bigger picture, but just reading this by itself, moving a house doesn't seem to violate this to me.
Okay. Anybody else?
If the goal, what I just read emphasizes that the goal is to protect the citizens of the state of Massachusetts. In my mind, that's the house falling down onto the beach.
Mhm.
If the house is moved, then it limits that possibility. But what I'm bothered by is that that's what we agreed on at our last meeting, and obviously we've been ignored. And that's the part that I'm not happy about, and I don't know how to reconcile those two things. I do want to move the house, period, but I want to move the house, period. The rest of it really has to go through process. We need an NOI. We need the client to understand that they need to pay attention, and they're not paying attention right now. And this isn't, it's really nice to see the seals in the morning, which is what I heard this morning. It is about protecting the citizens of the state of Massachusetts. I'd like to do that. I'd like the client to understand that that's the goal, and that's the only short-term goal that they're going to get with an emergency from our committee. Hillary.
I guess I would like to understand, I think, two things. Number one, did Mr. Ellis provide the site plan to the applicant? Did the applicant know what the site plan entailed? That's question one. Question two is, why has there not been a notice of intent filed yet? We've been talking about this for months and months and months. This is an emergency. We all agree moving the structure back is an emergency. The town is not in the business of removing structures. But why has nothing been done?
Yeah.
Chip, can you speak to that? Can the homeowner speak to that? I think it's really important that the commission understand these two things prior to making any decisions.
Okay, Chip, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. First, with respect to the 30 days, and I said, I've been on a commission for 9 years. I've been involved in enforcement matters and involved in emergency matters all over the Commonwealth. The 30 days runs from the day of the authority. The 30 days has not started yet. You can't reference February or March or April. The only matter that's in front of you was your May 12th vote, and that vote did a couple of things. First, it set conditions, and the condition was that after the house was removed, first we had to file the escrow. That would trigger or authorize the ability to demolish and to move. Not in February, not in March, that was on May 12th. So once we had an agreement on the escrow, the 30 days starts. The second thing we agreed to was that we would file a notice of intent in order to make the temporary housing more permanent. So to your question, Madam Chair, that you can't authorize the house to be moved to a place it's not authorized to go to, you took care of. The commission had a very thoughtful discussion on May 12th. And you said I mischaracterized it, but I certainly heard the commission say, we're not saying that this can go here permanently. We're requiring that you file a notice of intent in order to leave that there, to put it on the helical screws and have that there for however many years until that coastal bank takes that over. The third thing is, one of the reasons why we didn't appeal, actually, that's the first question I asked, is why didn't you appeal this or go to DEP? And the answer from the Hayes was, we wanted to work with the town. What we were trying to do was to reach an agreement rather than to go over their head. And we had the impression from talking to the people in the building department and the commission that we were getting there. So they could have appealed that at any time. You're right. And one of the other advantages is the heavy season has passed us. You know, we all hold our breath when we're in the season with the nor'easters, but that house is you've seen it. It's 5 feet away from the coastal bank. So what they're concerned with is obviously the public safety threat. So what does 10.06 require? 10.06 requires that there's a threat to public health or public safety. The building department, who are well versed, better versed. I'm a lawyer. I can't tell you. I can certainly know that in all along the Cape, if a house is within 5 feet of the bank, that's in imminent danger, and that house should be moved, and that's what we should be dealing with here. And I agree with that. It's a matter of public safety. It's also a matter of natural resources, because if that tumbles down the bank, that will harm the stability of the bank more than anything that's taking place today. So to answer the question about, you know, what have we been doing? We've been doing two things. Number one is working with the town to find the conditions that we could agree. And I agree with the statement that you were reaching out to find a yes vote. That's the way I watched that meeting. And I agree with you, and I think that that's what you all want to do. I think you all recognize that that's what we need to do, and you're trying to find the conditions to do it. We're just about finished with a notice of intent. I mean, once we have a couple of other items that are put together, we will file that. If you recall, and the chair keeps taking us back to 10.06. 10.06 says you have to finish the work within the 30 days, which we will do. And second, we have to file an after-the-fact notice of intent to authorize the work that we're looking to do, and that would be to put the house on the helical screws permanently. That's what we would be looking to do. So we're complying with 10.06. We got the approval or the condemnation. We got the letter from the building inspector that said that house needs to be removed. That's in imminent danger. That's your public safety requirement. That's in 10.06. We have that, and we presented to that. And as I said, I don't think the commission should be in a position to overrule the building department as to whether or not that house is in imminent danger. I think we should be going forward and doing that. And we will file that notice of intent, which was part of your order, within that time frame. So we're ready, willing, and able to do that. So I understand you're reconsidering, but there's really nothing that has changed in terms of that imminent danger that house is in. And I don't think the commission wants to be the ones who say, well, no, you can't move it. And then something happens and that crashes down the coastal bank, harms the coastal bank as well as that building. I don't think that anybody needs to do that. I think the best thing for us to do is to move that on a temporary basis, to come back to the commission and see whether or not that's the appropriate place to do it, and to do that as quickly as possible. And we are ready to do that. And you asked me a question at the beginning, is everything that we're doing within the authority of 10.06? Yes. You can't just move a part of the house, that you're going to have to move the entire house, and you have to move it away from the bank. Once it's away from the bank, that imminent danger is gone, because you're now 60 feet away instead of 5 feet away. But whether or not that becomes permanent will be up to the commission.
Well, you're definitely not 60 feet away, and you have not actually answered Hillary's questions. And then I do think you mischaracterized what I said. I wasn't saying February and March were the 60 days it should have been completed in. I'm talking about the 60 days from when you start work. And it was an emergency in February, and you came and we gave a permit for demolition, but denied a partial relocation. You did not appeal.
No, we refiled.
That has nothing to do with working with the town. And then because you came back in March 3rd and we denied, and then we didn't hear from you again with any emergency requests or notices of intent or anything until May 12th. It was an emergency in March. It was an emergency in April. And you didn't address it, and now it's an emergency still, and I just kind of laugh a little bit at that. But I would like you to answer Hillary's questions, and then after that, Joanne.
I think Hillary,
It's your turn.
I thought I answered it. I apologize if I didn't. She asked me, what have you been doing? And I indicated that, through my predecessor, Ben, and others, everyone was talking to people in the town. They were talking to Jason. They're putting together the protocol for the demolition and the removal. As I said, we presented you with a pretty comprehensive document that explained, that walked you through the protocol. The second thing that we were doing was we were preparing the notice of intent. So that's being prepared, and we will file that. 10.06 requires us to file that, and we will file that. But the house needs to be removed.
Hillary, would you like to repeat your questions? Then
Yeah, I wanted to know if the applicant had a copy of the plan that was submitted to the commission.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't write that one down. I apologize. And I don't know the answer to that, whether or not that is kept on site. I believe that he does. I believe that there's no, I'm not sure the shed is shown on that plan in terms of where that's going to go, but
It is
if you
absolutely
represented
shown.
it was in the middle. I don't have that in front of me, but I can't answer that question in terms of whether he had that site. I will tell you he will and does have that site plan now in front of him. So that's what he's going to follow.
Okay.
Joanne?
I guess I'm feeling like it was a blatant disregard for an approved plan that was presented at a meeting and agreed upon. And the fact that the vegetation was cut down is quite a big deal, actually, because there's very little vegetation left on that site. And that very vegetation is what holds that bank in place.
I think we've probably got some pre and post pictures that could show.
I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes. I don't know if the commission has seen it, but that's really troubling to me on such an environmentally sensitive site that we all care so much about, that type of activity would occur.
And just to second that, we've seen, many of us have seen it, but we also have a near map photo from middle of April that shows the site quite clearly and where the vegetation was. Joanne?
I think Chuck was waving for quite a while, so I want to.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. It's hard to see you wave. It would be easier if you clicked your hand button, but go ahead.
All right, well, there's a question for Hillary. Did the work begin before the escrow was set up?
Yes, we don't even have the escrow account set up. We have nothing set up, signed, sealed, delivered. Absolutely nothing.
Well,
That's all we need to know, because the conditional emergency certification was conditioned on having the escrow in place prior to any work.
That's correct.
And that means that emergency certification doesn't exist. And 10.06 also requires that you have an emergency certification and to do the work, so you're in violation of 10.06. End of story.
Yeah, my point was that 10.06 hasn't been triggered because we don't have the emergency certification. I agree. The work that was done was in violation. We've admitted that's not at question at all. I agree. We brought down a check. Mr. Hayes brought a check to the office. I think it was on that following Monday for $10,000 to be deposited. He didn't do as part of an escrow agreement. The way I read it was, but it was deposited with the town.
But the town can't deposit that check because there's no account for it, and the agreement was that Ben Zender would hold the escrow. So that is not fulfilling any part of the agreement from May 12th.
Yeah, I don't. I provide Alex Weisheit, town council, with a proposed escrow agreement that does exactly what you did, what the commission voted at the last meeting, and I would be the escrow agent instead of Ben, but it requires us to meet all the conditions the commission asked us to do, which is to file a notice of intent and to do that work within the 30 days. And if we don't, then we forfeit that money. It can be used to demolish the house. But I haven't heard back from council. I reached out to him, and I know that he knew that you're going to be discussing the fine tonight. I don't know what he's done with the escrow agreement, but it has been submitted and a check was written.
Well, the check is kind of meaningless because we can't do anything with it. So let's depart from that
I
discussion.
think that's fair. I think that's fair. I just wanted to respond that we had written a check, that's all.
That what was necessary to complete in order to get to the permit was not done before any work was done. I think that's not in dispute.
That is not.
And that an escrow agreement has not been signed, escrow account has not been set up, and none of those conditions have been met as of this point.
Well, we're ready on our side. We're just waiting for town council to approve it on your side, yes.
Well, it's also a little hard to approve anything when there's violations going on and a stop work order in place. So the question is, what do we do next? I'm looking for suggestions.
Okay, my hand's still up.
Okay, I did call on you, but you.
Yeah. I just started talking now. Yeah.
You kind of, your hand kind of disappears into the corner of my Zoom. So okay.
There you go. So in my mind, here's what we do. We are all acknowledging there have been violations, so we should address the violations. Are there fines? I think that's number one. Number two is I am unclear, and I'd like to hear from Hillary and Alex if the delay is a reasonable delay in terms of getting the certification and the town council's input, et cetera, if it has been a reasonable delay or an unreasonable delay. And I think for me, if we do not have this solved by our next meeting, that it's not a question of reopening this particular one. It's moving to a new issue, which is, do we vote to demolish the property? Because it is an emergency situation. So it would be a new matter that would come to us if we are, I mean, I am reaching the point, certainly for myself, where this is an emergency situation. If there have been disingenuous, undue delays to the process that we agreed to last meeting, then we move to the new matter of voting to demolish the house. I mean, so for me, it's the violations. Has the delay been unreasonable? And for me, at least, from like a layperson's perspective, if we don't have this resolved by the next meeting, then we address the issue of demolishing it.
Hillary, you're muted.
I was going to say, we don't have an application before us proposing just a demolition. So we can't make any headway on just a demolition. We have a June 5th filing deadline for a June 23rd meeting. We've had several filing deadlines and meetings come and go since we first talked about this. And the whole intention was to get a notice of intent filed for the permanent placement of this structure. So perhaps we wait until the June 23rd meeting to take any additional action and see if a notice of intent comes in, or you have the choice to go ahead and reissue an emergency certification if you're so inclined to do so. But I think those are our two paths at this moment. You can deny the emergency certification. They can go ahead and appeal that to DEP if that's the approach they want to take. They can file a notice of intent, like we've asked for months and months, and apply to move the house back and set it down on helical anchors. Or, I don't know that there's a third option at this point. So we can approve the certification, we can deny the certification, and we can request the notice of intent.
We did approve an emergency demo back in February. I don't know if that still is a thing, but they did not.
The 30 days would have come and gone for
right,
that.
and they didn't fulfill the conditions on that one either.
Correct.
Even though it was agreed to. So this is the second time we have emergency certification where the conditions have not been fulfilled, which I think is a concern. Yeah. So I'm kind of with Joanne and Hillary on the wanting a notice of intent here. There were seven deadlines missed since February to file a notice of intent. when we could have heard this and the relocation of half the house and had that permitted or not permitted by now. Alex?
Nancy Hayes is with me in the meeting room and has requested to speak to the commission.
Okay, she can do that.
You got to just push the button.
Yeah, if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Oh, there. Okay, now I got me. So I'm Nancy Hayes. I am the homeowner. One of the homeowners. And I just did. I mean, I understand that everyone's pissed off because he went ahead and did that, and I apologize about that. But he took the piece down that was going to be down. The part of the shed that got moved was going to have to get moved to pull the house back, and all he was really trying to do, and he thought he had permission to, was to just get it started. So if we hadn't done the stop work order and we did put the money and tried to get that in, the house would be moved by now, and it would be not in danger of falling over and endangering all the people at the bottom of the bank. So I really just wanted to clarify, nobody did anything with any ill intent. We were trying to do the right thing. We just wanted to enjoy the house there for a year or two more, but maybe that won't happen. Someone made fun of me wanting to look at the seals, which I like, but we did want to just move the house back. It's a beautiful location. I apologize for what happened. He apologized for what happened. We're getting fined, more than whatever. You'll have enough money to pay for the other house to get moved by the time you finish fining us. And I'm just upset that we just wanted to demolish it, and all we really wanted to do was just have a place there, and nobody was trying to do anything mean to anyone on the commission or ignore anyone. We really just wanted, to do the right thing, and I guess that's kind of what we thought we were doing. And I apologize, and my husband's apologized, and there's nothing else we can do. So I just wanted to let you know. I felt bad that everyone was saying that we hadn't done this and hadn't done that, and this time has gone by, and we did try and get something in. Ben wrote a escrow agreement that no one, unless an attorney, could have understood. So we tried to simplify it, and we brought something down to Alex. And then, Chip came in and wrote a real nice, simple one that the town council had. And so I'm sorry that stuff's taken time, but again, the house would have been moved out of danger, and I just wanted to say that. So that's it. I'm done. Thank you.
Can I just ask, the one that you emailed to Alex, you wrote that yourself?
We did.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. So in terms of the emergency certification, I'm just going to kind of ask around the room, where are we heading with this? We heard from Joanne. Do you want to make a proposal?
I mean, I appreciate the comment from the homeowner. I feel like the process has moved somewhat, so I am okay with keeping my vote the way it was before. With from my comment on that is with the timeline that Hillary kind of addressed with the June 5th and June 23rd kind of dates, as if we get past those dates without a notice of intent, then my opinion changes very quickly.
So you're saying you now want the notice of intent filed by the deadline for the second meeting in June? Hillary?
Is that right? The June 5th and June 23rd? If we don't see
June 5th. June 5th is the next filing deadline for a meeting on June 23rd. There's no sooner way to get a notice of intent before the commission.
So my opinion is I'm okay keeping it the way it is, but if we don't see them filing by June 5th, then my opinion changes.
So that's changing the condition somewhat from the 12th. The 12th was the NOI within 30 days in June 5th. We've been told the NOI is almost ready, though. Would it be ready by June 5th?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please. Sorry.
I think so, but remember, it was 30 days from the date of the emergency authorization, so the 30 days hasn't started. But we will work as hard as we can to get that filed for June 5th.
Well, I understand it's 30 days from the date of the permit, but it sounds like there's a wish to change the conditions somewhat because of all of the circumstances that have been going on.
Well, what I was saying is, if you change that condition that we have to file it by June 5th, we will accept that.
Okay, Hillary, you want to? Okay. Janet, and then Chuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Janet, then Chuck.
The way I read it, section 1006, section 5, makes a statement that if certification is improperly granted, and I believe we improperly granted emergency certification. In addition, at least one of the commissioners said, there was a general feeling of trying to help the homeowner who was going to move it quickly and then get it off the property quickly. Now you're talking about filing an NOI and saying, no, you want to leave it on the property and connect it. That's not what I thought the agreement was. In addition to us, I think, certifying it improperly.
Hey, Chuck?
At this point, I'd like to just set aside the issue of any certification and deal with an NOI. Because there's no premise for an emergency at this point. Stuff has been moved back away from the bluff far enough so that it's not critical unless we lose 10 or 15 feet off the bluff. So my suggestion is for them to work as hard as they can to meet the deadline for the submission of the notice of intent. And if there are things that you believe are incomplete or insufficient, put them in and file it anyway, because it's highly likely that there's going to be a couple of go-arounds before any NOI would be approved. And there would be questions at the time that the NOI is presented, and there would be sufficient time to get it tuned up and fixed if necessary. So I think I'm with Joanne. I don't think you want to miss that deadline.
Yeah, I would agree, but I think you may be under the misimpression that the house is farther away from the bank than it was when a portion was demolished. The portion of the house that remains is still within that zone of danger, of imminent danger. It's within 5 feet of that bank.
All right, I was not aware of that because I hadn't been out there. That's
a very important point. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's a very important point.
Right. Well, I don't know what to say then, other than until the escrow is in place, we can't issue a certification.
And we agree with that.
Hillary?
I do have one more question, just thinking about this process further. If the notice of intent gets filed and the commission determines that they cannot go with the permanent placement of this structure for whatever reasons they consider, and then that gets appealed, then the house is sitting there for, an extended period of time while that plays out in the Superior Court. And, I wonder what that process looks like. I don't know, Chip, if you have experience with this kind of thing.
Yeah,
Because, and what do we do with the escrow? The 30 days is then blown. How does that work?
So the way it works right now is if we don't file the notice of intent, and let's say we do that by June 5th, or we don't move the house by the 30 days, then we lose the $10,000, the escrow money, and the commission can hire somebody to demolish the structure. If we, so that takes care of it. If we don't comply early on, the escrow, I'm obliged to hand you the money. If we don't demolish it ourselves, the money is for security if we don't do it ourselves. That's obviously the purpose of the escrow. If we file the notice of intent, it's going to be like any other notice of intent that the commission sees, which is it protect the interests of the act? Is it consistent with the performance standards? Is there an issue with the stability of the coastal bank, or are there other there's no BVW on the site to my knowledge. So the question is whether or not the project meets the requirements of your bylaw and the Wetlands Act. And if it does, and you approve it, if it doesn't and you deny it, we would have the right to appeal that, yes. And then it's like anything else, you go through the process.
Have you given you or your applicant or anyone else representing the project, given those regulations a hard look?
Your regulations?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't say that I've spent hours and hours, but I know the coastal bank regulations. We're in buffer zone to coastal bank. I know what those requirements are, that we cannot disturb the stability. And I understand that that's what your bylaw does as well, is it makes sure to, that's what we're here for, is to protect the stability of that bank.
I think you're actually on the bank, not in the buffer zone to the bank.
Well, it's an interesting question because where's the break and slope? And that's I'm a lawyer, not a coastal geologist, but that's the question of where's the break and slope, and where is it, between 4 to 1 and 10 to 1 under the policy 92-1.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're on a flat area. I believe that we're in buffer zone to coastal bank, and the notice of intent that I looked at that was prepared by Jason and others says that we're in buffer zone to coastal bank.
Well, that's actually a whole nother conversation that's not part of this tonight. But
Right. And that's why I don't want to get out, because we want to get that, as Nancy said, we need to get that house out of there.
Well, you could have, I just still do not understand why we're this many months away from February, where we had all these months where you did nothing with the commission to try to move this forward, and how it wasn't an emergency in most of March, and it wasn't an emergency for you to come and do it with us in the whole month of April, and now it's an emergency to move the house again.
I think Ben believed, and I have no reason to disagree with anything that he did. I think Ben believed that he could work that out with the commission so it would work for everybody without having to go the appeal process.
It's hard to work things out with the commission when you're not coming to talk to the commission.
Well, I can't speak to that. I don't know who was talking to
I
who.
think that's just a given, that there were no other filings with us, and no discussion, and no request to even sit down with the commission and talk about it for all those months. But
I've been talking to commissions for 45 years. I love talking to commissions. And you're right, communication is critical, because I think there are things that the commission learned on the 12th and again tonight that you may not have known. And that's on us to be communicating with you.
So I am finishing up my 9th year on the commission, and I can say that in all that time, we've never had an emergency situation drag on for this many months with so little communication from the property owners, except for the house next door, which has been going on even longer. So it kind of boggles my mind that we're now, all these months later, still talking about it, and nothing has been done. And here we are.
I think Alex will tell you that as soon as I was retained and Ben walked away, I sent him an email that very day and told him I was stepping in, and could we talk about what's going on? And he told me that it would be discussed tonight. So that's why I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're also here because there's been the violations, and I think that's one of the key things we still need to discuss here. But Hillary, you want to jump in again?
Yeah, just one more quick thought. We are going to, for whatever we do, we're going to need a new revised site plan showing the new disturbed areas and the locations of items.
Yeah, I would say the existing conditions plan for the NOI will reflect what the existing conditions are, correct?
Well, I think she's saying we need that for the emergency certification, and in order to issue an actual permit, we need to know what the current site conditions are. Is that what you're saying?
Ideally.
That the site plan that was submitted
need
with
an
the emergency
accurate plan.
certification is no longer accurate
Correct.
and applicable to the conditions of the site.
Correct.
Well, if you want to make that a condition, just like the June 5th, I'm hoping, I mean, all engineers are out straight. I'm hoping that they can help. So I'm speaking without having authority. I'm hoping that that can be done. And we could make that a condition. I mean, it would be part of the NOI anyway, so I would think that we would be getting there. So.
Well, I think that's something that we need to have before the permit from the emergency certification could be issued.
Yeah, I would make it. I would make it conditioned upon that.
Right.
Yes.
And the June 5th NOI deadline.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then, okay. And then we're still in. I'm still unclear on the 30 days for the escrow and when that would kick in, given these changed conditions here.
Well, it doesn't kick in until town council approves the escrow, and I notify you that I have that $10,000 in escrow that I'm holding.
Well, let's talk about the $10,000 too, because that's an estimate from a private contractor. And if the town is going to be the one that is demolishing the property, it has to pay prevailing wages, which might not be equal to what the estimate from Ambrose was. So is 10,000 sufficient given those circumstances?
Yeah, again, this was just for the demolition.
And the estimate from Ambrose also had that it included 60 days of cribbing. So that indicated to me that the house was going to be there for longer than 30 days.
Well, I think we all agree that the notice of intent process probably will take a couple of meetings to go through. So I think that's why he put in the 60 days, because he assumed that that wasn't going to be a one night notice of intent.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but I question whether 10,000 is sufficient, given what the town has to pay to get work done versus what a private person has to pay.
Well, if you want to leave that for town council, for him to be satisfied, I think that's, we can provide whatever data you need. We provided what we believe the estimate was for the demolition. If, again, I think you leave that for town council, then we would agree with that.
Okay. So, Joanne?
So just to go back to what Hillary was saying, have we determined that the conditions at the site have changed to the extent where the certification that was approved at the last meeting may no longer be applicable? And so therefore we're talking about withdrawing the previous one and requiring a new one? Hillary, was that what you were getting at?
Well, I wondered about that because the site plan is no longer accurate. There's an area that has no vegetation. The whole back of the lot has been denuded as well. Garden beds have been pulled out. There's a giant brush pile that needs to be taken care of. So there's a number of things that need to be addressed. I think as part of the emergency certification, and without them shown on the plan, we don't have anything accurate to make decisions on, and whoever's in the field isn't going to know what they're looking at or what was approved if we don't have an approved plan.
And can I ask, can any of the work that's already been done? So I think we might be at the point where the motion we need to entertain would be a withdrawal of the current certification. And then, and then what happens? And then do they file again? And my concern is that ends up delaying things significantly, although procedurally it may be the proper course. I don't want to add a whole bunch of, time to this timeline.
So they can withdraw and they can file as many times as they want. This is their third time. There's no law that says they can't file 4 times or 5 times. So they have that ability. But I think whatever we approve at this time, sure better be accurate, and all parties should agree that this is the plan. And I don't know how we get a guarantee of that. Mistakes can happen, yes, but who is responsible? Your contractor should have been the one conducting the demolition. That didn't happen. Okay, that's a mistake. Vegetation got removed. Okay, that's a mistake. Brush is stored now on town and federal property. That's a mistake. I mean, I guess without an accurate site plan, more mistakes can happen.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so I would question whether or not we can actually re-vote on the certification as is.
I mean, you could, with the understanding that an accurate site plan will come in before we issue it. That's the same thing we did with the escrow account.
Okay.
So, we have the ability to do and say these things, but if there's no appropriate follow through or accurate follow through, it's all for nothing, and we're just wasting more time.
Well, I would agree with you. I think what we could do is you could amend your vote. I mean, you've already reconsidered, so it's in front of you. You could add amendments to require that the contractor has to be on site, require that the site plan has to be filed, requires that town council has to approve the escrow and the amount, and have the June 5th, I just wrote down those 4 items, the June 5th filing of the notice of intent. And you could put those in as your conditions of the approval. Because the one thing that hasn't changed, the coastal bank is not further away than it was. The house is still in danger, according to what the building department said. That hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a time limit on that building department permit?
I think it was an order that it was a letter in order that said that it should be removed. I don't know that there was a
10
date. I
days.
can't
I
answer that.
believe the original order, and I can pull it up, said that it had to be done within 10 days back in February.
We certainly can't do that without the Conservation Commission's approval. That's why we started to try to go through the commission.
Well, your clients were not very persistent, and I think, and did not appeal the decision. So I do not understand that particular move, but they were not very persistent in resubmitting applications to try to get this done. So it has taken a very long time, and it certainly has not decreased the probability that the house will topple over, and going ahead and doing the work without a permit. And you can say that was a mistake, but given that your client who did the work has been in this business for so long, I do kind of question that. But all of that aside, so we can go ahead and amend if we want to, that that the emergency order would be conditional on an accurate site plan. But yeah, I think one of the things that we were originally concerned with, that we denied the order on, was that we were concerned that the lifting up of the house would further destabilize the bank and the foundation concern. But anyway, yeah. All right. So we need an accurate site plan. That's a given. we want the NOI by June 5th for the June 23rd meeting. Town council has not, I think, reviewed the escrow to the point where he's telling us what the situation is or the amount. We kind of, I think, would like an agreement that your client not do the demolition perhaps himself, given his jumping the gun and our concern that might be repeated.
Well, he's not intending to do, we have a contractor, we have Ezra's, I think you know that, who the contractor will be. And again, one of the items that one of the members mentioned, having the contractor on site, that was the fourth amendment.
Well, our permits usually require that everybody who's engaged in the project has read the permit yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else we need to consider? I think we have not actually looked very closely at the stability of the bank at that site and adjacent to where the house is going to be placed. And as we had said back in February, that we really wanted a coastal geologist to take a look at that for the stability and whether anything should be at that site. Yeah. So we are probably going to need to hire a consultant when we get the NOI, a coastal geologist at your expense, in order to evaluate the situation. So that will add considerable time onto the notice of intent process.
Yeah, no, I think we understand that, and they proposed to do cribbing now, so there's not no foundation that's going to be dug for this temporary. It's to place it on something so that we won't harm the bank.
Mm-hmm. Well, my concern is that I do not want that house sitting in that relocated location if a hurricane would come through, because once that foundation is out and it's just got sand in it, it is very much a focal point for continued erosion, and the house where you're temporarily wanting to place it is incredibly close to that.
Well, I think I said 60. I think it would be 40 feet.
It's definitely not 60, right. And it's not, if you consider, I consider that the coastal bank kind of restarts where the foundation comes out. So given that the disturbance from the foundation being removed and the ledge and the underhang as it currently is, that the coastal bank shifts to where the foundation is. And I have serious concerns about that house sitting there through any kind of storm and how long that might last. And it's not 60 feet back. I don't think it's 40 feet back, even when you consider what the current conditions are. So
that's for the notice of intent process. I agree with you.
Well, it's also a concern that if the house is going to be there temporarily and how long temporary actually is. So that would be a concern, that temporary could go well into years, given how long appeals could take on a notice of intent and so on. So there's no agreement on how long that's going to stay there and no conditions on it. And that is a concern for me.
Yes, I said we can discuss that during the notice of intent. I think you heard Nancy say they're hoping to be there for a couple of years. That's what they think. Basically, if you understand how erosion has taken place over these banks, a couple of feet a year or whatever is taking place. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower.
The house next door between 2013 and about 2025 lost about 100 feet.
Right.
So let's not talk in 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah, no, absolutely depends.
And this property lost 8 feet in February, or January.
That's why we're here. That's why we have an emergency.
I understand, but you're talking in 2 or 3 feet a year, and that is not applicable at this site location. And we definitely none of those properties along that coast. So so I'm just concerned that we let it temporarily be there and it's going to run on for years without an actual permit in place. Hillary?
Just curious if applications have been filed yet with the zoning board or the Board of Health.
I haven't filed anything with either the zoning board or the Board of Health.
Okay.
Well, you'll definitely need to file with the zoning board because of where you're putting it is right up on the property line and not with a setback. So-
Understood.
And I guess the Board of Health, yeah. Okay, so what are we doing here? Do we want to require a new emergency certification, or do we want to amend this one? I need at least a few people to weigh in on our path forward.
I think the fastest path is the best. That house needs to move. I thought that it had been pulled back, so surprised I was wrong. It needs to move. The criteria that have been discussed tonight are okay with me to get it moved back. For the longest time, I was simply in favor of demolishing it, and I'm kind of moving back toward that pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So if it doesn't move very quickly, then it needs to come down very quickly. Because it's true that the winter storms are over, but the spring ones are coming.
Well, we're going to be in hurricane season next,
Yep.
so we don't get a lot of breaks here between. All right.
So our original conditional approach required the escrow to be in place, and it actually sounds like that's fairly close to coming to fruition.
Mm.
So that and the other criteria can be met quickly, the new site plan, stuff like that, then I would be personally okay with doing an amendment to the existing certification.
Okay.
I don't know about the others. We'll see.
Well, let somebody else weigh in.
I have the same opinion as Chip, if it helps things move along more quickly.
Okay, so then we'd be looking at a motion that an accurate site plan be given to the Conservation Department prior to the issuance of the emergency certification permit. That the escrow be completed with town council having reviewed escrow and the amount of the escrow in relation to the actual town costs of demolition. That the notice of intent be submitted by June 5th for a June 23rd, the June 23rd meeting, that the contractor be on site during all work, that everybody who is working on the project must read the permit before doing any work on the property. What else am I missing, Mike?
Do we want to add that all fines should be paid as part of this as well?
Well, we haven't even talked about any.
We haven't talked about fines yet, but
Yeah.
if you're adding things on the list, because I'd like to add them on the list. We had a list a few weeks ago that it didn't work out. We'd like to be a little more precise this time, and that would be another piece of it. But I'm in agreement with the rest of it, and I would be happy with the amended version. Hillary?
Hillary. Thank you, Mike, for doing my job.
No, I just...
I was also going to add somewhere that we should contemplate bringing the consultant on board sooner rather than later, as soon as the notice of intent gets filed, so that we can get that reviewed and moving, so that things can be done as expeditiously as possible.
Normally, that takes a vote of the commission to do that, and the next, so that would be at the June 9th meeting. We would have to vote. We could vote for that, even though we don't have the notice of intent in front of us.
Well, we should have it in by our next meeting.
Yeah, but it won't have been publicly noticed or anything. So can we vote on hiring a consultant without having, you know what I'm saying?
I think we can to begin the initial review. They're obviously not going to finish up their review till after we hold a public hearing, but if we let time lag, then there's going to be weeks after the notice of intent comes in until we get someone on board.
Mhm. Okay, so we could include in this that they would agree to us hiring a consultant to review the stability of the bank prior to the notice of intent, the first, once the notice of intent has been submitted before we have the first hearing?
I think we could review the stability of the bank, but they should also review the full notice of intent.
And the full note, right, to the stability of the bank and the notice of intent prior to June 20, well, if that's possible.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's possible. I don't know if we'll find a consultant that can work that quickly.
Well, at least the agreement that they will not challenge our hiring of the note, well, that would just be a challenge to the select
Yeah,
board.
I'm going to mention to the, sorry.
They don't actually have a right to challenge our hiring of a consultant. They just have a right to object to the cost of it to the select board.
Well, the consultant is more related to the NOI than the emergency certification.
Right. But Hillary is, I think, is making the point that it's going to take a long time to get this notice of intent done, longer because the consultant has to be hired. But I think she's wanting to I don't know exactly how to put that. We're going to hire a consultant to review this project. I think that's a given. So I think I agree with Hillary that it might make sense to have that done as soon as possible after the notice of intent is submitted, rather than waiting until we have the first hearing on it. But I don't know that that actually relates to any of this. Okay.
We know there's going to be a consultant, and I think the consultant will want to see exactly what we're proposing when they're looking at that question. So once however you can work it out that consultant starts as soon as we file the notice of intent, we don't have any objection to that.
Okay, so we'd actually have to have a vote at the June 9th meeting for that, because we can't hire a consultant without having a vote. So, okay. So, all right, and then I don't know that we can tie the payment of fines to the emergency certification either, actually. So I don't think that's a thing. Hillary?
We can't do that because it's a separate process. It's a non-criminal citation.
Right.
And, the owner has the right to appeal through the district court. And so we can't take that away from them.
Our absolute favorite thing. Okay. Yeah, I just am going to mention that we had a lot of violations over the last couple of years, so we have had a little court time. Yeah. Okay. So what we're looking at is that before the emergency certification can be issued, an accurate site plan has to be submitted. We have an agreement that the notice of intent will be submitted by June 5th for a June 23rd meeting. What happens if it's not?
If it's not, then under the terms of the escrow agreement, that money goes to the town, who can employ a third party to. If we haven't moved it, you can demolish it, right?
Okay, we need to make sure that that's spelled out in the escrow agreement that way. Okay. And town council to review the escrow and the amount and make sure that the notice of intent June 5th deadline is included. The contractor must be on site at all times while work is going on, and all workers must read the permit before they carry on any work. And I think that was it. Hillary?
Sorry, just one thing that's not clear to me at this moment. The $10,000 for the demolition goes to demolish the structure if the notice of intent is not filed by June 5th, period. Even if the structure is moved back and the notice of intent is not filed by June 5th, then that structure goes into the dumpster.
That's the way that it's written. Has to be moved and notice of intent. Both of those have to take place or else it's demolished.
Okay, and all right, and if it's moved and there's a notice of intent, and then we deny the notice of intent, will the escrow, and then you appeal and we get upheld, the escrow would go towards demolishing that as well?
Well,
That the
I intentionally limited it just to the move because I believe we're going to have a different escrow agreement with a notice of intent. That's the way that I figured it. So,
Well, if we deny the notice of intent, there's not going to be a different escrow agreement. So this needs to carry through to a denial of a notice of intent. And the demolition of the house, if we deny the notice of intent and your appeals
yeah,
are not upheld.
if ultimately we are not able to put that there and it has to be demolished, I haven't talked to my client about that, but I think we would be okay with that. That would remain, that money would remain in escrow.
Yes, but I would want that specific condition in the escrow.
But I'm saying that we would agree to that.
Okay. Okay.
I said I'm taking some liberties with my client is what I was saying.
Well,
So,
they can always come back and say no, and then they can file it. We'll deny this, and they
Right.
can come back and file
I
again.
hear you.
Because, yeah. Was there anything we missed, Alex? Any thoughts? Anybody else? Okay, it sounds like this is what we're gonna do. So we need a motion to amend the emergency order as determined on May 12th, so that an accurate site plan is delivered to the Conservation Department prior to the issuance of the emergency certification permit, that a notice of intent is filed by June 5th for the June 23rd meeting, that town council will review the escrow and the amount of escrow, as well as including the June 5th deadline, and that the escrow extends to demolishing the house if the notice of intent is denied and all appeals have been exhausted. The contractor will be on site at all times while the work is going on, and all workers must read the permit before doing any work. Alex, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we address that. We have an accurate quote for the demolition.
Right.
Yeah, that's built into the town council approving it.
Well, right, but the town council has to make sure that the amount is related to what the town would actually have as costs as opposed to a private contractor doing it. Is that what you were referring to? Yeah.
Because it's actually the demolition, the disposal, the asbestos survey, all those things that will need to be done.
The demolition, the asbestos survey, and the disposal at the rates the town would pay, plus a bump for inflation if it's going to be at the end of the appeals process. Okay, do you need me to repeat that, Alex? Your hand's still up?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, should I now repeat that? So we have it clear in one fell swoop? Okay, so a motion, we'd like a motion to amend the May 12th agreement for the emergency certification so that the inaccurate site plan shall be delivered to the Conservation Department before a permit is issued. The notice of intent is to be submitted by June 5th for the June 23rd hearing. The town council will review escrow and the amount is based on what the town would be charged for the demolition, the asbestos survey, and the disposal plus consideration for inflation, that the escrow would go into effect and could be used for a demolition if the notice of intent is not supplied by June 5th, or if the house is not approved, the location of the house is not approved or is denied by a notice of intent, and all appeals have been exhausted. That the contractor be on site at all times during the work, that all workers must read the permit before doing any work on site. I think I got it all.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the purpose of the escrow is if we don't do the work. So, provided that, because we could demolish it ourselves and follow the requirements. So we want to make sure that and the escrow will say, the escrow will say that.
Okay, it should say that it'll either be the town doing the work or the owners doing the work, but the amount in escrow has to reflect the cost that the town would have to pay to do the work and any inflation given how long the appeals process would tend to.
Agreed.
Okay, so I'm not going to repeat it all. I think we're all clear on this. If somebody would like to make that motion. Janet,
Did you include a coastal geologist to evaluate?
That's going to be for the notice of intent. So
Okay.
that's not engaged at this time.
All right, I move your motion.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, Chuck,
yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, now we still need to talk about the violations and the fines.
Karen,
Yes.
if I can interrupt, given the lateness of the hour where I am, I would
Yes.
excuse myself from the remainder of the meeting.
Yes,
My
we do have a quorum without you, and thank you, and sorry for
Thank
keeping you up so late.
No, I'm doing it to myself. I'm sacrificing for my civic duty. I'll see you guys all next.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, Joanne is currently stationed overseas for the federal government, so, and 5-hour time difference. So that's a trooper. Okay, so the violations, the commission does need to ratify the stop work order, and the fines. The question is also on the table of whether we continue the fines and what the mitigation and restoration would be like. Do we want to table that for another discussion? And the question is whether we continue the fines or we say, I think the point has been made and would appreciate them paying the fines and we can move on.
Yeah, I think the only thing I might want to mention is in terms of things being on the wrong property, I think that it was pretty clear that Rick went out there in order to straighten things up, and then when Alex told him to stop, we stopped doing everything. So we've observed that stop work order. We haven't done anything. And if there's certain clearing that's on the wrong property, that our intention would be to remove that and place that on the right property. So the only problem I have is just a continuing violation, because I'm not sure that there's anything that's continuing at this stage from the 6 that I look at. There's no work that's taking place. The cutting the tree took place. The shed that's already moved, the storage of machine has been moved. That's off-site. Partial demolition took place, and again, we can take the debris and clear that if you tell us to, but we haven't asked to do that because we have a stop work order.
Well, there's a continuing violation in the removal of the tree and the vegetation in that they were providing stability to the bank. And until that somehow is mitigated or restored, it's a continuing violation, I believe. Hillary?
The shed also is not in the proper location.
Right.
Well, okay. I mean, is that altering the resource area? Is that contributing to an alteration of somehow?
Yes.
I know the hour is late.
I would believe it is, yes. And obviously, we haven't gotten into it's a late hour and discussing what possible mitigation and so on for that. And
Can I make a comment?
yes, go ahead, Chuck.
I think mitigation can get worked into the NOI. I think if there are things that we want them to do, remove stuff, then amend the stop work order to allow them to go in and do that particular work. And in terms of continuing fines, personally, I don't have a problem with suspending them pending the following of the schedule that we've set for the emergency certification. If all that comes to fruition, then I would be okay with stopping the fines from now until that point. That's just me, Mr. Fawn.
Any other thoughts on that? I think the stop work order should remain in place and we should ratify it and set a date for removal equal to the date that the permit is issued.
Well, they can't remove with the stop work order. That's why I said.
Well, we can give permission. I think we can give permission to remove the brush that's off the site and on town property.
Okay.
I don't know. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. You know, getting the brush off town property, you know, and cleaning up the site. You know, that's certainly something that can be done in short order.
And we're prepared to do that.
Hillary?
Well, so the silt fence installation?
Oh, that fence is absolutely useless. It's not installed properly at all. It's not clamped to the ground except at a few little posts. It did absolutely nothing. So they're going to have to do a better job with that when they do any other work, I think. I can't say I've seen some bad silt fences before, but this was pretty bad. Does that you're saying that needs to come out, Hillary, or needs to be put in properly, or can that should wait until the?
I think it should be put in properly.
Okay, so if that's part of the amendment, we'll put that in, and then maybe we could have Alex come out or you come out, Hillary, somebody comes out to say that it's appropriate. We'll be fine. We're fine with that.
Okay. And then remove the brush from town property. I think we can give permission for that.
And the porta potty.
And the porta potty. And then the vegetation and the shed's not going to stay there. It's going to move to its.
Yeah, it had to be moved in order, as Nancy said, in order to move the house, it had to be moved. So that's where it was put there.
Well, that was not a permitted place, nor was the vegetation authorized for removal. So, and anything that's a change in the conditions that they want to make to the permit has to be approved. And I would think that Rick might know that from his long experience.
Yeah, no, and I do as well, and that will be in the notice of intent plan. I think we would put that in where that's going to ultimately be.
Right, but in the emergency certification work, he cannot deviate from what is in the order. And if he wants to deviate, that requires a coming back to getting different permission. And I think you need to make that clear to him. I don't think we need to put it in anything, but I think you need to stress that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to belabor this, but my question is if the shed obviously needs to be moved in order for the house to be moved, but I'm not sure if that's where the final place of the shed will be.
The final place
So-
of the shed in the plan,
Is in the, right,
for
is
the
in a different
emergency
spot.
demo, was next to where the house is in the driveway.
Right, right.
So not off to the side, vegetation cleared close to the, not that far from the coastal bank.
So it would be appropriate to put the shed on a plan where it's going to be at the finality of this move then.
Well, it was on the plan that was submitted, and I don't know that you need to deviate from that.
Yeah,
And if you deviate from that, I think that requires coming back for another discussion, because we didn't change in this discussion where the house and the shed were gonna be.
okay. It's an 8x8 shed, so we'll find a way to deal with that.
Okay. Just to be clear, that we have not changed where the shed and the house were getting moved to.
Correct.
Other things, so there needs to be no discussion about where the shed's gonna go.
Where it's gonna
Because
go,
that was already, and if it needs to be a discussion about it, because they don't want to put it there, they have to come back and have that.
Yeah, that's why I stopped speaking, because I believe the shed is on the plan where it's going to end up. So I'm going to end
Okay.
here.
And we're not happy when people do things that deviate from plans, as you can tell.
Understood.
I don't, and you know that from having been on a commitment
Right.
for 9 years, you would not be pleased with this situation either. So, okay. So we're gonna allow you to put the silt fence in properly and schedule with Alex when he can come out and review that.
Okay,
And remove the brush from town property, remove the porta potty. That we're gonna ratify the stop work order and leave it in place until the permit has been issued. And I think we've agreed that we're gonna pause the fines for now.
Not being very fair.
right.
And hopefully we'll take care of the ones that were issued already. And does that sound about right with everybody else?
Yep.
Anybody have anything else they want to add here? Okay, so if we could have a motion to that effect, that, do I need to repeat it? Okay, somebody would just say so moved,
So moved.
and a second, please.
Second.
Okay, Mike,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, it sounds like we are done for tonight, and there'll be a lot more to discuss in the future.
I would like to thank each and every one of you for the courtesy extended to me tonight. I'm new to the project, and I appreciate the ability to speak through this process with you.
Okay, thank you. And we have a few things. What do we have left here? We didn't do, did we do the minutes?
Yep.
Yep.
If I may, Karen, I've got a couple other
Yeah.
brief updates.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's see, where are we? We sent out nourishment letters to property owners who did not nourish this past season. Those were mailed out, I believe, either last week or earlier this week. Overall compliance was pretty good. We had 12 property owners that didn't nourish,
You
and
did
so
that at the last meeting.
did I already update you on that?
You did that on May 12th.
Okay, all right, then disregard that.
I know it's been a long day. Groundhog Day.
I sent the letter to 1765 Massasoit Road, inquiring about the cut black tupelos on the ECF property, and so we're awaiting a response on that. That's all I got.
Okay, and the work session is June 3rd at 6 o'clock in the small meeting room at Town Hall. Everybody should bring some kind of finger food snack or whatever they want to cook or share with everybody. I will have things for you to read by the end of the week going out for us to discuss at the meeting, and you'll get an agenda probably later in the week or Friday or Monday. Okay, anything else, anybody? Wayne is going to make our motion to adjourn, I think. but thank-
This is Wayne, a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I just want to thank everybody for a very, very long day that quite a lot of us have had, and for your work tonight. So if somebody who
Thank you,
actually,
Karen.
if somebody who actually has authority to make the motion would make the motion, and somebody just jump in with a second, we can then get done with this and send everybody on their way.
Move to adjourn.
So moved.
That would just say second.
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 Thank you, Cinnamon,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mike, Janet, and me on
Yes.
the
What about me?
and Wayne.
I say no. I get paid by the hour and I've got rich tonight.
Oh, yes, you did. This was a very long meeting.
Okay,
Too
yes.
bad too bad you weren't on the site visits. That would have been
Oh,
another
that would have been
4
so much
hours.
fun.
We had 4 hours of site visits this morning, starting at 8:30. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Night.